The story begins with a boy named Lua Foil. He is 19 years old, and he has the 10th level. Covered in blood and bruises, with a sword in hand, it seems he defeated something, and that is quite an achievement. So he rejoices in this. In the village of Foil, they show the guild. The same boy bursts into the guild and joyfully shouts to everyone present that he finally defeated 2 slimes. For a moment, silence hung in the guild, then everyone laughed at him together, mocking that he got bruises just by beating slimes, and even said that for this he is not worth even an F rank. The boy anxiously explains that those slimes can also bite if serious, but people still laugh at him. Not suspecting the real challenge, after all, they easily defeat slimes. Despite their mockery, Lua approaches a guild worker, trying to get attention and saying that he also won 2 magical gems, which he considers worth 1,000,000 mers. But the worker sharply brought him back to reality. It turns out he receives only 3 mers. Lua begs him to give more mers. 3 is not enough to eat. The worker refuses, explaining, that's how business works. Disappointed, Lua resigns himself to dinner grass and insects. The employee asks, what is my current status? He sincerely admits that he was once at level 25, but now is only at level 10. He accused Lua and asked if he had absorbed his levels, and Lua calmly replied that he had to do so to defeat slime. The sword broke, and he had to sacrifice his levels to forge a new one. Turns out that Lua has a rare ability to create items. He gives up his levels, and new things appear, but unfortunately, this gives him almost nothing. Another person acknowledges this, but expresses only a sparse, colorless praise, which annoys Lua. He has to spend levels to create items, so he cannot accumulate them, and because of this, he cannot become a merchant. Moreover, the more items he makes, the weaker he becomes, so he cannot even join a team. Lua is depressed because he cannot earn money or effectively gain experience. Every day he tries to defeat weak monsters to level up, but he never becomes strong enough. When he cries, it is clear that he is a good guy. The wind picks up, and it seems that everyone already knows why. Suddenly, a guy named Carter appears and starts mocking Lua. His appearance annoys everyone around, and they shout at him because they had told him many times before not to use magic in the guild. But he ignores their warning. Carter behaves like a typical spoiled boy, bragging about his father's wealth. He does not let others command him and boasts that his father owns the only store in the village. His attitude annoys everyone around. He mocks Lua, saying that he cannot do magic like he can. He had to devour his equals just to create one. Sword, he laughs, saying that he has a whole bunch of swords, just like the one Lua created. This spoiled brat, instead of getting angry at Carter's mockery, Lua calmly says that he does not necessarily hate his skill. He explains that in childhood, he adored everything bought with his own money. He believes that when you gain something at the cost of a truly dear loss, it matters. His effortless calm drives Carter crazy. When Lua was about to leave, the shopkeeper behind the counter called out to him, reminding him about his 3 mers. He almost forgets about his reward. With these merces, he can at least buy some salt, and it turns out, leaving behind the irritated Carter, who increasingly dislikes Lua. Walking through the tunnel, Lua thinks that no matter what anyone says, he will continue to use it anyway. He is forced to resort to this power because there is no other choice. He draws his sword and begins to exterminate the slimes swarming in the tunnel. 1 level is not enough. Without skills, you won't become stronger. You earn skill points during level ups, and you can spend them to acquire abilities and magic. But because of Lua's ability to create items, his level kept rising and falling, so he couldn't gain skill points. In other words, no matter how much he leveled up, he won't be able to learn either magic or skills. That is why he sharpens himself daily with the sword to become stronger. Lua defeats all the monsters, and finally raises his level to 49. At this level, he might be able to defeat a monster of a lower level, but one mistake and he could die. Victory over the monster could finally put an end to his days of meager earnings, and he steps forward, pondering all this. He encounters a barrier. Behind it waits the dungeon boss. Once you step over the barrier, there's no turning back until you kill the monster. Although Lua might lose, he gladly accepts this challenge, hoping that the death of the beast will end his miserable life. And he steps into the barrier. As soon as he steps into the dungeon near, what if the boss appears behind him and attacks? The dungeon boss is a skeleton swordsman, like Brooke's brother, and they recommend level 50 for him. This is almost at Lua's level. Lua counterattacks with a sword, but the dungeon boss skillfully dodges his strike. Lua realizes that this boss is much stronger than the mobs he has encountered. But he does not give up because he has endured many hardships in the past. He attacks the dungeon boss with enthusiasm. Finally, he defeats him with his sword. The dungeon boss falls. And Lua cannot believe he won. He is glowing with joy he finally defeated the monster. Suddenly he receives a message, level up, and he has gained a new skill. It is called magic creation. The next day he walks to the guild and puts down a bag full of bags, gems displayed in front of the cashier for exchange. It is impossible not to be surprised to see that he brought so many precious stones. And Loa is also happy finally tonight he will be able to eat well. After some time, Loa is sitting in the cabin. Half of the Tiri Foil village is enjoying a real meal. The dish does not boast, only bread, soup, and dried meat, but our poor boy waited many days for this, so he savors every piece with tears in his eyes. He makes the people around feel that he is miserable. While eating, he thinks about. Yesterday, after the victory over the monster, he mastered a new skill. Tested it in the dungeon, the skill turned out to be really top-notch. He is really cool. Quietly eating his food when the spoiled Carter appeared again. This starts to annoy him. Someone is taking his dried meat without permission, and yells at him a little, but then remembers that he must. Just ignore him. Carter probably thinks he can kick Loa out if he wants. Carter asks about the rumors from the guild that Loa has so many gems, and Loa agrees, saying he obtained those magical stones by defeating monsters. But suddenly Carter grabs his hand and announces to everyone that he got those gems from the shop. He blames Love. Listening to this, Carter's father, with a patch on one eye, he aimed his sword at Loa and loudly declared that thieves deserve death. He is stunned by the sudden change in atmosphere and asks what is happening. The man sharply says, "Don't play dumb, some magical stones have disappeared from the shop." He accuses Loa of robbery. Loa tries to justify himself, but Carter interrupts him, insisting that Loa could not have obtained all those magical gems by himself. He does not let him make false accusations. But Carter suddenly releases a gust of wind and throws all the food to the ground, loudly warning Loa, "Don't play dumb, otherwise the next target will be him." He grabs below. He was grabbed by the collar and demanded to surrender, but Loa insists that he did nothing. Carter admits he knows that Loa is innocent, but a large reward is promised for catching the real culprit. Carter's squad is currently short on money, so he craves cash. No matter how much Loa begs, he has no evidence to prove his innocence. Carter spits in his face. "It was you who stole these gems." He sharply pushes Loa towards his father so that he leads him to the guards. Suddenly, Loa pulls his hand away from Carter and, smiling, asks if the one who catches the culprit will get a big prize. And suddenly magic swirls around Lauer. He tells them that he did not steal the jewels, he earned them. Carter cannot believe that Loa is now casting spells and also a D-rank fire spear. Everyone is stunned. Loa really uses magic. After defeating the dungeon boss, he stayed there a little longer to train his new skill, magical creation. Earlier in the dungeon, when he opened the status window, many new elements about magic creation unexpectedly appeared before him. There were many of them like spells. Imagine, spells like Magic Fireball and Water Cannon each costs 50 levels and consumes 250 MP. Loa suddenly realized that this new skill was very similar to his old one-item creation because both are fueled by level exchange. So, by exchanging levels, he could benefit from it. And also to learn to use magic. Until then, Loa could only acquire items. Restoring levels was very difficult, but now he easily defeated monsters with magic, so leveling up became easier. He was happy, but such. He calmed down and sat down. The tension eased a bit. First, he needed to decide which magic he wanted to use. After long reflections on different styles of magic, he finally chose fire magic. But it cost 250 MP, so he could use it only once. Loa had only about 260 MP. Fortunately, there are still plenty of spells that cost less MP, so he decided to choose the first magic, the spell Fire Spear, which costs 40 MP. He put into action all his other magical levels. After all, daily spells took only about 1 level. Finally gathering all the cheap low-level spells, he decided to use magic against small monsters. Suddenly, a tiny level 32 monster appeared, which looked exactly like a cute kitty. But sometimes appearances can be deceiving. Suddenly it transformed into a huge wolf and lunged at Loa. This shocked him. He was completely unprepared for it. Hesitating, he used a fire spear. He smashed the monster with one blow. Loa was on cloud 9. With one strike, he defeated a level 32 monster. He realized that if a powerful spell hits, it can defeat the enemy. Even me, despite the significant level difference. He received a message that he gained experience for defeating the monster and that his level jumped from 1 to 11. He was thrilled finally, feeling himself getting stronger. So he firmly decided to use his magical creation to become the best in magic. Returning to reality in the cafeteria, Carter finally softened. He apologized to Loa and asked him to stop using magic. He apologized for mistakenly accusing him. Seeing that he apologized, Lua stopped casting spells and explained that he did not want to make a scene, he just wanted to share what Carter had whispered to him earlier. Carter also admitted it and began to speak. Suddenly he placed all the blame for the theft of magical stones on the guild counterworker who was standing nearby and saw everything, and that one did not remain silent in response. Verbal quarrel broke out between them, which left Lua stunned by Carter's actions, and Carter cheerfully asked if he was okay. This irritated Lua even more, because Carter had just accused another person of theft and lied. The guild worker defends himself, don't miss the continuation, that he did not steal anything except Carter and St. John. To shift the blame onto him, he believes he can punish the worker, so he uses his gust of wind to attack an innocent man. This action finally angered Lua. He stopped Carter's magic with his own because he wanted Carter to let him handle it himself, but Carter left no choice, so Lua took matters into his own hands. This instantly attracted the attention of everyone present, and shows his everyday magic he records and then plays back. When everyone saw this magic, they finally understood what the two of them had been talking about earlier. When the truth surfaced, everyone understood the real culprit was Carter. Sneaks up from behind, grabs him and hits him. They sincerely appreciate Lua for his efforts, and their shouts make him realize that they also despise Carter. Lua is happy finally, no one will look down on him anymore. Everyone, even the guild workers, gathered around him in a crowd to praise his work. The next day, when Lua comes to the guild, he notices that people's behavior has completely changed. Some invite him to their team, while others are ready to fight against him. Lua rejects their offers and says he prefers not to unite with anyone. He believes that joining a party will bring him great benefits. That is, EXP will have to be shared among everyone, and his skill development will slow down because of this. Wants to gain experience on his own and level up quickly. He approaches the counter, where the employee seems to have been waiting for him. The latter asks Lua to show his guild card. And greet him, he has been promoted from rank F to rank E. The promotion confused him. Lua learns that the adventurer's rank depends both on contributions to the guild and on real strength, and it was precisely because of his antics in the cafeteria yesterday that he earned this promotion. The employee extends his hand low. His new guild card, which was from iron to bronze. Lua accepts it and nervously presses it to his face, still not believing he was promoted. He thinks that maybe he is the only one who spent so much time just to get rank E. The employee smiles. Now he no longer has to see Lua covered in bruises after fights with slimes. He has a silly smile, and he proudly holds the rank E card. Now the rank E adventurer has decided to go monster hunting. While he is pondering this, voices are heard behind. He turns around and sees a squad of adventurers fighting goblins. The party members insisted with all their might that one of theirs named Sonya join the party. Take on the role of the tank. The tank's task is to stop enemy attacks. Sonya, all covered in dirt, counts. Lua listens to their instructions rather, criticism, and sees that their teamwork is faltering. He notices Sonya trying to cover a comrade from a goblin, seeming fragile and not at all suited for the front line, but doing everything to become the enemy's target. He cannot understand why the other members lose patience because of her. He sighs, deciding that it is not his business, and walks away. Meanwhile, the gods. Lin attacks Sonya from behind and catches her by surprise. The teammates desperately try to warn her about the goblin, but it seems already too late. The goblin attacks Sonya. She sees no way out, loses hope, and closes her eyes. But when the goblin gets closer, suddenly the magic of Lua's fiery spear throws it into the air. Sonya is stunned. She thinks she was saved by one of the girls at the party. She thanks her, but the girl insists she did nothing. Innocent Sonya continues to thank, giving the girl a chance to get up, so she proudly accepts it and asks Sonya to bow before her. Watching their interaction, Lua sighs with relief they did not notice him, and he begins to retreat because he does not want them to be angry at him for interfering. He is confident that all adventurers are ready for any danger, and since they are receiving rewards, they would not tolerate anyone meddling in their affairs. Sonya would have been torn to pieces if Lua had not managed to save her. He glanced at the status window. It shows that he has already exhausted a significant part of his. The new magical creature did not displace the old magic. He retained 2 unique skills, and he can still fully use the ability to create items. He uses this skill to create MP recovery medicine, which costs about 20 levels. Initially, he had 50 levels, and now only 30 remain. He decides to use the remaining levels to create real magic. He creates a box for items that can store up to 150 things in another space. He puts the MP recovery medicine inside and feels how convenient it is. Restoring MP is difficult, it consumes levels, so MP recovery medicine will be a real salvation, so he decides to continue leveling up and collect as many of these medicines as possible. Over the next 3 days, he fights monsters and stocks up on a bunch of mana recovery potions. On the 4th day, he already had about 100 MP recovery elixirs, so he no longer worried about his MP supply. After some time, he descends into the E-rank dungeon to meet the boss, but freezes upon noticing a familiar face behind the barrier. Sanya stands, firmly holding a shield in front of a giant monster named King Frog, who is level 100. Lua freezes at its size and immediately decides that this is the dungeon boss. The monster sharply lashes Sanya with its tongue, but she deflects it with her shield. Lua wonders, why does she have to fight such a giant monster alone if she is in a group? If she faces this alone, there will be no victory. He steps forward to help her, but suddenly freezes because he believes she is a traveler and should be ready for such situations. In the end, he feels the same. He does not want help from others, and that is how he has come this far. If she really decided to become an adventurer, then surely she is like that. Considering all this, he begins to step back. His hidden thoughts undermine this conviction. At that moment, he also wanted someone to say, but no one ever came to his aid, and asking for help seemed humiliating. He did not want anyone to see his weakness, so he silently kept going. Lua restrains himself, but his true self is desperate to save Sanya. Finally, he rushes at the monster, placing himself between it and Sanya. She recoiled to get a better look at him and asks what he is doing. He replies that he is just a traveler passing through and is now about to defeat the boss monster. Lua is currently at level 40, and he already regrets pretending to be tough. The monster is much stronger. He looks back at Sanya. She can no longer fight, and now that Lua has climbed in, he has no choice but to fight. Suddenly, the boss monster attacks Lua, and he barely manages to dodge. If that attack had hit him, he would have died instantly. He was thinking of using magic when suddenly, the boss monster eerily raised its eye almost to his face, and that scared him. He needs 4 seconds to activate the fire spear magic, but at the monster's crazy attack speed, he definitely won't make it. Seeing that he is in trouble, Sanya instantly caught his gaze and shouted, "Hit the stomach, that's its weak spot." And Lua thanks her for the advice, but admits that it's hard to hit the stomach precisely with magic. Still, he can do it with the help of items, so he takes out his MP recovery potion, but the monster attacks at that very moment and breaks the potion. Lua immediately takes out another potion. Sanya yells at him to pay more attention to attacks rather than recovery. It tells her that everything is fine, everything is going according to plan. Somehow he sneaked up to the monster and smashed the potion right before its eyes. It closed its eyelids and fell into the worst state. Meanwhile, he activates. After 4 seconds, he lunges at the monster and finally defeats it. Sanya is a bit stunned by the magic she saw, so Lua explains that he was not trying to drink the recovery potion at all, he just wanted to reduce friction on the floor. He proudly says that looking cool is not easy. Sanya, with eyes full of tears, thanks him and also points out that he has glass shards in his back, but our main hero doesn't pay much attention to it. Lua receives a notification. For defeating the monster, he gained experience, and his level jumped from 40 to 70. Lua exploded with joy when he saw that he just gained 30 levels. He received a name: Lua, the Dungeon Wanderer. Suddenly behind him, Sanya falls, and Lua instantly reaches out to her. Her condition is extremely bad. She had been fighting long before Lua arrived. He takes out his MP recovery potion and asks her if he can drink it. Sanya refuses, says it's too luxurious for her. But Lua deliberately makes her the drink, since it costs him almost nothing. Sanya immediately feels better. She gets up to thank Lua. He saved her twice, and when Lua pretends not to understand, she directly says. Seeing his magic, she realized that he was the one who saved her from the goblin that day. Lua apologizes for interfering earlier, but Sanya stops him with the words, "I am very grateful to you." Lua smiles, introduces himself, says he knows her name because he heard it from her comrades, and asks about her allies. She tells him that they abandoned her while she was fighting. Lua cannot believe it, so he adds that as the tank in the group, she was the only one who went beyond the barrier, and when the allies realized they could not defeat the monster alone, they abandoned her and went outside. Lua was annoyed that her allies left her even though they knew she could die. He asks why she was paired with them, and she replies that she has a unique ability. She was called impenetrable. Because of this, she only knows how to defend. She has no offensive skills, so she has to fight with the party and endure even the harshest treatment. Sanya, with tears in her eyes and a rosy smile, thanks Lua. If not for him, she would have already died. This unbearably angers Lua. Sanya turns out to be just like him. She was also humiliated because of her inconvenient ability, and they treated her even worse than they treated him. Her allies, or rather, snakes, just used her as they pleased. Seeing Lua silent, Sonya calls him, and he asks her to return with him to the village. Those same allies are probably sitting there eating as if nothing happened. Lua cannot just leave it like that. He decided to teach her allies a lesson for how they treated Sonya. In the village in the guild, Sonya's comrades, a girl and a boy, leisurely sip drinks and tell how they escaped from the dungeon, mocking Sonya because she got a mad monster. Just as they started teasing her, Sonya appeared with Lua, and this surprised them both. And among them, one voice asks how she survived. But the woman interrupts him, bursts into dramatic crying, and rushes to Sonya, shouting that she feels so relieved Sonya is alive. She convinces Sonya that she was worried and tried to prevent her from crossing the barrier, but Sonya crossed it anyway. Lua, irritated by the girl's behavior, decides to expose their lie. After all, adventurers value their reputation very much, otherwise strong people would not come to them. He loudly says that Sonya told him they left her in the dungeon. If he had not saved her, she would have died. He mocks them, hints that they will do it again, and calls them terrible. The man asks to speak more slowly, and Lua stubbornly says that he just talks like that. The man sharply replies that they did not abandon her, and even if they did, Lua has no proof. In response, Lua pulled out and showed a D-level magic stone that he obtained by defeating a monster. He emphasizes that he would never have obtained it if he had not defeated the Frog King, hinting that if they had not fled, it would have been theirs too. The man tries to shift the blame onto Lua, insisting that he could have created it with his abilities to create items. Lua also states that Sonya was alone because she decided so herself, and leaves the matter to the judgment of the spectators. Let them look at her expression and decide for themselves whether it is true or not. People around whispered, sincerely hostile to her allies, and Lua, hearing this, smiles crookedly and tells the boy that as a low-rank adventurer he might not care about a good reputation, but they need it. This angered another boy. He rushed to hit Lua, but Lua easily dodged. Responds with the same strength. After many years of fighting without abilities, Lua has an advantage in hand-to-hand combat. Just as a fight is about to break out between them, a guild clerk angrily bursts in and intervenes. He yells at them to move the fight outside, otherwise he will take their guild cards. Sonya sharply grabs Lua by the hand and pulls him out, and Lua protests. He hasn't taught them a proper lesson yet. But Sonya smiles broadly and tells him that she feels better now. She sincerely thanks him, and Lua gladly accepts the gratitude, thinking the quarrel was worth it. Soon they both sat in the dining hall, where a luxurious meal was laid out before them on the table. Sonya offered him all of it and said she would pay for everything. Noah literally drools at the sight of such a quality dish and asks her if he can have some. Sonya happily replies that he can, because he saved her. Lua grabbed the food, and as soon as he took a bite, a wave of deliciousness overwhelmed him. Our poor boy had never tasted such deliciousness before. He decided that Sonya was new to the village, so she didn't know that he had recently learned magic. Before, people only laughed at him. He saved Sonya because he sincerely believed she was just like him. He added that at first he almost left, because he felt he had no right to save her. But he quickly changes the subject and says he will pay for the food with the money he got after exchanging the magic stone. After a pause, Sonya quietly says that he still saved her, even though she is weak. He did not abandon her, so she feels she must repay him even more. She tells Lua that if he doesn't mind, they can form a team together. Lua shudders when Sonya asks to form a team with him, but he is still alive. In a gentle voice, she explains that she was once noble but fell and became an adventurer to survive. A shy blush spreads across her cheeks, and she says that she built herself from scratch. In this, she feels they are similar in some way, so she hopes they can walk this path together. Lua thinks for a moment, then admits that they have returned. The battle with the Frog King harshly showed him how hard it is to fight alone, and traveling alongside the strong Sonya true, tank-balanced attack and defense. So agrees to unite. Sonya gladly agrees and sincerely promises to repay his kindness. They clink their wine glasses and thus seal their agreement. The next morning, while Lua is sweetly sleeping, Sonya bursts into his room and announces, "It's already late, so she was. I will punish him if he doesn't wake up." She playfully taps him with her shield, and Lua suddenly jumps up, embarrassed to see her above him. Frightened by her sudden attack, he demands to know what she is doing here, and Sonya cheerfully says that their rented rooms are next to each other, and surprisingly, his door was unlocked. Lua groans, recalling how after exchanging the magic stone last night, he escorted Sonya to her hut and found out they were staying in the same place, still remembering that he had drunk too much. Sonya asks if he always sleeps this long, and Lua mumbles that he is just someone who likes to sleep peacefully. Smiling, she voluntarily offers to wake him up every morning. Lua protests that he doesn't want another shield tap, so Sonya laughs and says then he should get up earlier, teasing that his sleeping face is so cute. Watching her leave, Lua looks at the now rumpled covers and for a moment regrets this alliance. After a few minutes, Sonya returns and announces that she has already submitted the form to create a party. Since registered participants can see each other's statuses, Lua checks her full name Sonya Clark. She is 17, level 65. He is impressed when he sees that her death count is 500, almost 8 times more than his. Sonya scans his card and praises that he has 2 unique skills. Lua is clearly puzzled, so Sonya says with surprise that she has gone on hikes with many groups, but has never encountered skills like his. Therefore, she believes he is special. Embarrassed by the praise, Lua waves his hand. To change the subject, Sonya asks where they will go today. Lower suggests the E-rank dungeon, but adds, "We will go only if it is convenient for you." He explains that there is 1 E-rank dungeon and 1 F-rank dungeon in the village. If they defeat both bosses, he will get another title and hopes that Sonya will also earn her first. Sonya, excited, immediately agrees. Hearing her passionate enthusiasm, Lua instantly decides to create a new spell before they set off. At his current level, one choice stands out the most, so he gives up 50 levels to acquire fire. Sonya looks with curiosity and asks what he just did, and Lua, his voice trembling, explains that his ability to create objects allows him to forge anything at the cost of levels. Just a moment ago, he had 60 levels, but after buying the spell only 10 remain, so one strong hit can kill him. Sonya holds her breath at the casual mention of death, but Lua gently reassures her he has always acted this way and everything will be fine. Sonya calls his approach brave and vows to intercept every attack on him, and Lua smiles and counts on her protection. And together they confidently step into the dungeon, eagerly wanting to test his new spell. In the dungeon, 2 monsters attack them. Lua asks Sonya to buy him 4 seconds so he can activate his magic. So Sonya covers him and drives the monsters to one side. Lua takes a fiery spear and kills them with 1 strike. A hit that strikes Sonya. Lua feels the weight and thanks Sonya, saying that it is possibly thanks to her. And this makes her feel embarrassed. Just as they thank each other, suddenly another monster appears and they boldly rush into battle. After exhausting fights with many monsters, they finally reached the lowest level. Tells Sonya that to earn the title, she will have to kill a monster. She agreed. She is puzzled the Frog King they killed yesterday turned out to be a monster, and she is scared to think there might be more like that. She asks Lua if he knows where these monsters come from, but he does not know. She then explains that monsters are born from magical particles in the air. The denser those particles, the stronger the monsters, which is why powerful creatures often appear in dungeons. Although Lua defeated the Frog King yesterday, a new one can appear again. Lua agrees, noting that the barrier has risen again before. Lua looked at Sonya. She froze a little upon seeing the barrier, and he assured her that he would never run away. Encouraged, Sonya brightens and trusts Lua. They enter the barrier, where the Frog King appears. Sonya tells Lua to start singing the spell while she holds him back. She is determined to defeat him, no matter how many attempts it takes. King Frog is even bigger than the one they fought before, but now their approach is completely different. The frog lunges into attack. Sonya skillfully deflects. Lua is delighted. No attack has touched him, so he can calmly try out his new spells. It will take 3 minutes. Meanwhile, Sonya becomes his shield, taking all the attacks, while Lua recites his new spell. A fireball that instantly kills the monster. They are stunned. Previously defeating that monster required incredible effort, and Lua is happy and finally understands. You cannot underestimate a spell that deals 4,000 damage. He was informed that he defeated a strong enemy, received bonus experience, and his level jumped from 38 to 50. They exchange a low 5 happy for the gained EXP, and for Sonya receiving the title, and Sonya happily exclaims that they have achieved their goal, although the main male character has completely different motives. He pulls out a knife and begins stabbing it into the monster to collect materials he missed earlier because he was too caught up in chatting. The guys really love hunting. In the end, he obtains magical stones of rank E and D. Lua puts them in his box of belongings, and this is extremely convenient for Sonya. Lua tells Sonya that tomorrow he will leave the village of Foil to challenge a D-rank dungeon. In the village dining hall, they both talk about Lua's departure. Sonya says it's better for him to leave. His strength will be wasted here, and Lua replies that the same applies to her. He is level 78, she is 82, so both can claim promotion to rank D. Sonya agrees, but suddenly they both decide. They wondered where they would find a dungeon with a lowered level. Lua also doesn't know, even after many years here, so Sonya suggests buying information from others and also a map, although a map for such a dungeon is a real rarity. Hearing this, Lua says he knows a place where they will find it. Then he leads Sonya to the item shop, where Carter, the one who was once spoiled, greets Lua. Carter shows him respect and offers to show goods with the biggest discount. Lua had previously put Carter in his place, and now Carter looks pathetic. His character has completely changed, seeing how they talk casually. Sonya assumes that Carter is Lois's friend, but Lua explains that he only comes there when he is needed. Carter sees Sonya with Lua, gets confused, and finally shows his true face. He says he is not jealous, but still sends Lua, "Go and die," and Lua asks if they have maps that lead to the dungeon. Carter rudely cuts off, saying they don't have any. Supposedly, most adventurers come and take them, and then suddenly behind their backs appears Carter's father, who says that they do have such maps, which cools Carter's mood. The father shows them a map he once used when he was an adventurer. Lua and Sonya are surprised to learn that the map is handwritten, ask for it because it seems so valuable, and Carter's father only replies that he gives it to them as an apology for his son's foolishness, and that the map is better in the hands of someone strong. He also advised Lua and Sonya, if you're going to the dungeon, it's better to head to the city of Runbalk in the northeast. You will get there in 2 days, and Lua and Sonya happily thank him for this information. They will set out tomorrow. He says that now the village will be much quieter. Carter's father says he will wait and see how much Lua has grown when they meet again. The next morning then. Sonya pulls sleepy Lua. He mumbles that they could go later, but Sonya insists that it's better to leave in the morning and strictly orders him to walk properly. In Lua's eyes was written, "Finally leaving the village, I went through hell for this skill," and when it finally appeared, he wondered why exactly now. Maybe his hard work is finally starting to bear fruit. He is sincerely grateful to the village of Foil for the care. Leaving the village, Lua and Sonya came across a bunch of weak monsters and easily dealt with them. The magical particles are now weaker. But they should not relax sometimes, though rarely magical particles accumulate and then strong monsters may appear. Lua mocked the idea that they were stronger than the dungeon monsters. While they were talking, suddenly someone's scream rang out. Turning around, they saw a carriage approaching. You can hear a little girl calling for help. It seems a monster is chasing her, so they decide to save her. They think the monster is not that scary. But as soon as they see it, a terrible, formidable creature of level 130, they immediately regret their assumptions. Seeing the monster, both froze in horror, and yet Sonya, trembling, tells Lua that she will distract it while he starts casting a spell, and Lua, seeing her trembling, asks her to calm down. At such a distance, she has nothing to do at all. He releases his fireball, and with one blow kills the monster. Sonya praises Lua, and Lua's level jumps to 80. The girl from the carriage rushes to Lua and throws herself into his arms. With tears in her eyes, thanks him and says that he saved her life. She introduced herself as Masha and looked pathetic. Sonya shouted at her that it was rude to hug someone with a crying face right after they saved your life. Sonya hands Masha a handkerchief and gently asks her to wipe her tears, because that way she will look much cuter, and Masha also sincerely thanks Sonya for her kindness. She says that the traveling merchant, and because she knew this path too well, relaxed and did not notice how magical particles accumulated around. She was heading to Runbalk, but realized she was going the wrong way. Lua says to her, "We are going there too, give us a ride with your carriage." Masha says she would gladly do that. But her cart is packed full of goods. She prepared many, because numerous adventurers and travelers gather in Runbalk, but our hero already has his own plan. He puts all the products into his box for belongings. Masha almost panics when she sees her goods disappearing, but Lua-san calms her down and explains that he put everything in his item box. Masha is delighted that mages can do that. Sonya agrees and says that Lua-san is impressive. She is the biggest fan of our main hero. Lua spreads dry grass on the cart, frees up space for himself, and immediately does his favorite thing, sleeps. Masha again anxiously says that mages get tired after using magic, and Sonya explains, Lua is just a sleepyhead. Then both also get into the carriage and set off to Runbalk. On the way, Sonya and Masha are busy with many tasks, and our main hero is still sleeping when they reach Runbalk. Sonya wakes up downstairs. Lua trembled with excitement seeing so many people and buildings. Seeing his surprise, Masha decided that he was in Runbalk for the first time, so she told him that many adventurers take orders there. Noah thanks Masha and asks her to stop the carriage, saying that from here they will go on foot. He returns all the purchases to her. This impresses Masha, and she excitedly offers Lua to become a merchant together with her, but Sonya is not going to give Lua away, so she hesitantly refuses. Masha says goodbye to them and asks Lua, when you become a stronger adventurer, advertise my shop. After some time, Lua and Sonya reach the tavern and decide to stay there. Sonya suggests sharing a room to save money. Lua refuses. Even if more expensive, she will take 2 rooms. Sonya insists that one is enough for her, but Lua again says she won't be able to sleep. She is so sweet. Lua called Sonya cutined. She instantly got flustered and blushed. The hotel employee watching them grumbled irritably that they should leave if they were just flirting here. Lua takes the keys and assures Sonya they will earn back the money spent on the tavern if they go to the dungeon tomorrow, so she should not worry. Tony's dream of living in the same room with Lua was shattered, and she sulked. Lua, however, does not understand why she is offended, thought he was just being a gentleman. The next morning, Sonya tells Lua that there is a D-level dungeon nearby, according to the information she received from the guild while he was sleeping. Lua, who usually cannot stand mornings, is quite cheerful Tadyal thanks to Sonya, and he even has a new hairstyle. When they reach the D-level dungeon, they feel that its aura is much stronger than the previous ones. Lua is thrilled for the first time he is going into a D-level dungeon. Sonya tells Lua that if anything goes wrong, he must run and leave her behind because her life belongs to him. She is ready to sacrifice herself. Lua refuses to leave her. And so they both step into the dungeon. Inside, everything looks quite usual, but Sonya says that this dungeon used to be a sewer, and the monster's element depends on the environment, so most of them here are aquatic. The lower one thinks, each element has its own strengths and weaknesses. The strong one deals double damage, the weak one only half. Since both the fire spear and the fireball are at a disadvantage here, he only has 2 uses left. He has 440 MP, and a large fireball costs 200 MP. He is burning with the desire to fight these new monsters. Just as he is thinking about all this, Sonya shouts that a monster is approaching. Lua gets ready and sees a red armored crab with recommended level 150. The crab let him down a bit. It attacks with a claw, so Lua asks Sonya to cover him while he casts magic. Sonya uses. She uses the skill to distract attention to cover him. Vova releases his mighty fireball to attack. One shot is not enough for him, and he shoots again. Finally, they subdued the monster. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief, but Lua has almost no MP left. The crab attacks again, so Sonya. She became his shield, buying 10 seconds for him to recover. Lua thanks her and drinks a potion that restores MP. Having just restored his strength, he throws another huge fireball. To finally defeat the monster, he gains bonus experience and rises to level 82. They collect crystals, and Lua anxiously says that the monster had to be killed with 3 shots, so using items will slow him down. Sonya suggests learning lightning magic. Lua agrees. He opens the status window and sees a skill he has long wanted to try, lightning spear. It costs 150 MP and requires level 50. Its base damage is slightly less than that of a large fireball, but it consumes less MP and casts faster, and since the element is on his side here, it should help. Sonya tells him that if he learns this spell, his level will drop to 32, and even one hit could be fatal. Lua gently reassures her, "Don't worry, you are next to him. Just keep the enemies away from him, that's your specialty." Sonya blossoms with joy, thanks him, and giggles at the compliment. Lua masters the lightning spear skill, and they head deeper into the dungeon. Lua and Sonya go deeper into the dungeon. Sonya notices that the further they go, the darker it gets, so she moves closer to Lua and sweetly says that it might be dangerous. Lua says that they should go carefully and illuminate the place. He will use his light magic, so she won't be scared. Sonya is a little upset, but the scouts again say that it's cold and they need to stay closer, so Lua decides on this too. He takes firewood and lights a fire and brews tea to warm up. Sonya tries each time to get closer to Lua, but unsuccessfully. She sits sadly. She takes a sip of tea and immediately feels how tasty it is. She asks Lua what it was brewed from. Lua smiles and tells her that he bought it from a farmer with his own money because he thought that the former aristocrat Sonya might like it. Sonya, impressed, says that Lua is really a gentleman. He asks what she means by really, and she simply replies, "Because you are always so sleepy." While they were talking, suddenly a monster appeared, a squid-like creature that targets Rajus, as well as people with romantic partners, recommended level 155. It grabs Sonya with its tentacle. Goa instantly launches a lightning spear. Destroy the monster with 1 hit. The level jumped to 55. He is happy about this jump, and that spell's now cast quickly. Sonya thanks and enthusiastically praises his new magic. Lua explains, it has weak points and does not deal as much damage as a big fireball, so in battles he will have to choose wisely. Lua is having so much fun that joy simply shines on his face. Sonya teases him, saying he looks like a teenager. Lua suddenly realizes he is actually having much more fun than he expected. He makes a grimace and asks Sonya if she still looks like a teenager, and strictly says to him, "Don't make faces." She says he looks like slime being twisted and wrung out like an old rag-end for lower. This makes no sense at all. Soon they set off to the guild in Runvelka and show their magic stones. He approached the cashier and asked to exchange them for money. Seeing so many mad stones, she asks to show their guild cards, seeing the bronze card. She doubts that they earned those stones. Lua quickly explains that he did not steal them. She tells them to wait while she calls the appraiser. Lois settled down, disappointed, and offended no one trusted him. Sonia gently soothes him. Probably they are just new in the city, and small groups rarely bring so many stones. Lua is still in despair, so Sonia tells him that he is the strongest, and just then the appraiser arrives. Carefully examines the stones and finally smiles, confirming that they are genuine and freshly gathered. Cashier panics, apologizes to Lua, and says she has never seen so many stones in low-level adventurers. Lua sighs again and thinks that in the next town he should slow down today. He overdid it. The woman behind the counter, to apologize, offers to buy the stones at a higher price, and Lua and Sonia feel like real lucky ones. The appraiser asks if they really need so much money, and Lua explains that it is for lodging because they have traveled a lot. Then the appraiser suggests trying to visit the monster house next. He says that it is a place full of monsters that appears from time to time in crazy dungeons. Confident adventurers should try it, and for Lua and Sonia, it sounds like a great opportunity to earn more. After some time in the dungeon, Lua, so excited that sparks light up in his eyes, asks Sonia if she has ever seen monster houses. He is filled with pure joy at the very thought that with one strike he will sweep away a bunch of monsters. Seeing his enthusiasm, Sonia asks him to calm down, saying that he is making a teenager's face again, and although she has never seen a monster house, she agrees that it is a good place to level up. She worries that because of such a large number of enemies, Lua might sharply spend a lot of mana, and he reassures her, saying that last night he found a wonderful spell. He opens the status window and shows her a spell that works in an area. Thunderstorm, it consumes 400 MP and about 151. Sonia is impressed. The spell has such a large base damage, but she immediately notes MP consumption is a problem, and Lua agrees because he cannot afford it now. He is only level 101, so they still cannot buy it. They are in no hurry at all, they can calmly level up at their own pace, but Lua has a plan for the mana problem. He sees one item magic ring, which costs a whole 50 levels, so he takes it and puts it on. Sonia says that his hands are beautiful and gives him a compliment, which she does not do. He froze in amazement, but still thanks her. Suddenly a monster appears. They both rush into battle again to level up. They barely leave the dungeon for several days. On the first day they collected D-level magic stones and sharply raised their levels. Lua grew from 51 to 112, and Sonia from 115 to 138. After reaching level 130, Sonia stopped receiving bonus experience because the monsters were about level 150. On the second day they gathered more stones. Lua reached level 150, and Sonia also reached 150. They disbanded the group so Lua could play alone for a short time. And finally he reaches 151. On the third day Lua thinks he can finally get the skill, Thunderstorm, but realizes that survival is only possible at level 151. Not just 150, because he cannot fall to 0. In front of him stood a red armored crab, and he rose to level 151. Finally he acquired Thunderstorm, and found himself again at level 1, but he does not regret it at all. The ring of magic fills him with a lot of mana. Sonia looks at him in surprise. He is already so cheerful at level 1. She says she wants to see how he will use the new skill. Lua tries to gather a team again, but he cannot send her an invitation. Sonia tutor. They tell him the reason is probably the too large level difference. 100 levels do not allow forming a group. Someone could join a high-level adventurer just to use his power, so Lua will have to level up again, and Sonia encourages him, saying he will definitely manage, after which she goes to lure some monsters near him. He and Lua remind her, be careful. He can't believe how quickly he rose in 2 days, especially after farming so hard in Foil Village, just to reach level 50. Now he wonders what monster he couldn't defeat. While he thinks he hears Sonia calling for help, he turns and sees her rushing towards him, with 8 monsters chasing her. Lua quickly began casting a spell and shouted to Sonia, run straight to me. It will take 7 seconds to cast Storm. And since it's an area spell, one wrong move and it will hit Sonia, and waiting too long means it will be too late. He precisely timed the spell to the moment Sonia would reach him, and seeing that she was completely exhausted, he wonders if she has enough strength to get there. Sonia shouts from afar, Lua, use your magic. She assured him she would somehow dodge, but looking at her tired and worn-out face, Lua can't make himself believe her. He only needs 2 seconds. As Sonia and the monster approach, Lua calmly tells her, jump over him. As soon as she did, he truly releases her storm spell. With one powerful strike, she scattered all the monsters behind her. Sonya stands in shock, watching as they all instantly fall. Suddenly, a flurry of messages hits Lwa. He has defeated a giant monster, and his level sharply jumped to 110. Both are stunned. Lwa raised his voice in happiness and shouted loudly, celebrating this great achievement. Sonya is also impressed by his strength. Everyone was amazed. He managed to destroy 8 monsters with one blow. Lwa is glad that Sonya is unharmed. She rarely makes such mistakes. Sonya says she thought Lwa would handle them all, so she confidently attracted too many monsters. Lwa waved it off and calmly advised not to worry in the end. Everything turned out for the best. He earned a ton of experience, and the loop itself is simply incredible. He begins dropping everything into his inventory. Sonya, with a gentle smile and a blush on her cheeks, says that cleaning the house would be truly fun if it were together with Lwa. Lwa tilted his head in surprise. He did not understand at all what she meant. Suddenly, a voice calling for help sounded from the depths of the dungeon. Without wasting a minute, Lwa and Sonya rushed toward the sound. They find a man surrounded by monsters, desperately fighting to survive. Seeing Lwa and Sonya, the man calls out to them, asking for help. He admits that he took too many risks, and now finds himself trapped with no chance to escape. Lwa and Sonya quickly decide to intervene. Lwa asks Sonya to lure the monsters to the right distance. He now knows exactly the range of his spell. Sonya does just that, and Lower releases his magic again, destroying all the enemies with one strike. The man froze speechless, his mouth agape from the power Lwa had just shown. And Lwa rushes to him, asking if he is wounded or bleeding, and the man, still stunned, thanks him over and over and stares at Lwa, noticing a bunch of pop-up windows around him with messages about recent level-ups. The man could not hold back his screams and disbelief, so Lwa calmly told him to calm down. Lwa and Sonya sit in the dining hall next to that man from the dungeon. He breathes a sigh of relief, grateful to be alive, and to show his gratitude, offers to treat them. Eat as much as you want, he says, taking the entire bill upon himself. With tears in his eyes and a touched heart, Lwa dives into the delicious food before him. The man introduces himself as Eric, a D-rank adventurer. Sonya politely introduces herself, then introduces Lwa. Eric glances at his slender figure and jokes that although he looks fragile, he must be insanely strong. Probably at least C-rank, judging by the powerful magic he performed there. But when Lwa indifferently tells him that he is only E-rank, Eric almost chokes on his food, stares in disbelief, and asks Lwa in surprise if he is a novice in adventures, and Lwa just smiles and says he has been doing this for a long time. Sonya tries to explain that things are a bit complicated with Lwa. Eric listens with a confused expression, but without judgment. He is not the type to look down on others. He simply genuinely cannot understand it. Lwa changes the conversation and asks Eric if he had a team with him in the dungeon before. Eric replies that he once had one, but he was kicked out because he did not meet their expectations. After that, he went alone and quickly got tired of everything. Lwa does not know what to say for adventurers. Such a story is almost usual. Eric looks at the floor and mumbles that maybe his best days are behind him. Sonya intervenes and tells him that this is not the end, but only the beginning. Eric laughs and jokingly asks if she wants to join him to create a new party. Sonya immediately and sharply refuses. He laughs again and says he was just joking. Greg began to tell how many D-rank adventurers give up at the first obstacle, and says he decided enough playing around. Instead of risking his life daily in dungeons, he wants to open a workshop and make tools. Lwa supports this idea and says that he can still gain EXP from such work. Lwa asks Eric if he has been in Runbulk for a long time and if he knows what monster is the dungeon boss there, and Eric says he has never gotten that far but believes the boss must be at least C-rank, and warns. To defeat such a boss, a spell is needed that will kill it with one blow. Eric advises them to first take more guild orders and raise their ranks, and warns, do not stand out. Strong adventurers are quickly noticed and made targets, especially suspicious people in the guild. Lwa says he is used to suspicious types. Recalling Carter, Eric chuckled and teased him. You have a face that attracts trouble itself. Lwa puffs up a little, clearly angry, and this quarrel ends their night with a hearty dinner and warm laughter. The next morning, Lwa wakes up sleepy and a little broken after a deep sleep, stretches, and turning his thoughts to the previous night, hears a quiet rustle nearby. He turns his head and freezes. Sonya is sleeping nearby. Lwa's eyes open wide. He looks shocked, completely stunned. Sonya moved a little in her sleep and, half awake, smiled. Seeing him, she thought it was a dream. Lwa suddenly jumped up, staggering from fright and confused, not knowing what to do. He quickly looks and sees both are fully dressed. He exhales with relief, realizing that nothing happened. When Sonya finally wakes up and looks around, her eyes widen in horror. She instantly blushes and jumps up, confused, while Lwa tries to explain. He thinks she took him back to the room and also fell asleep because she must have been terribly tired. Sonya, all in shame, suddenly realizes this was not a dream. Without saying a word, she burst out of the room like a whirlwind, slamming the door behind her. Lua stands and looks at the door, completely bewildered. He honestly thought he had behaved like a perfect gentleman. He mutters to himself, I really don't understand girls. Later that day, they headed to the guild. Behind the counter, they were greeted with a smile by a woman at the reception. She says that Eric told her the whole story about how they saved him with their magic, even teasing that they probably had a wild night. Lua awkwardly looks away, and Sonya throws a spiteful glance. The administrator asked to show the guild cards, quickly checked them, and counted the magical stones submitted yesterday, smiled and congratulated both. They were promoted to D rank. Lua finally receives his new silver guild card, and the title novice gives way. Now he is a mage. The woman behind the counter points to the quest board and advises to check today's announcements when they approach the board. Sonya noticed one task that stood out: a mission to conquer Monster House. The reward was huge, 150,000 mure. Lua lit up at this amount, but Sonya did not hide her concern. The mission is 6 floors deep in the D-rank dungeon, which they had not yet explored. Lua shrugged off the anxiety and said with a smile that today he has plenty of levels, so he decided to take a quest. At that moment, a group of adventurers approaches. One of them loudly declares that the quest, Monster House, is already theirs, looks at Lua and Sonya with obvious indifferent contempt and mockery full of superiority, calling them the very couple everyone is talking about. They clearly want to scare the couple. They mock their appearance and tease them, as if in a real fight they would quickly fall. Lua narrows his eyes. Sonya is calm but alert. The tension is palpable, and the air between the groups grows heavier with each second. Lois sharply cuts in. What do you mean by that couple everyone is talking about? The other adventurers explain that rumors about them have indeed been circulating lately. They say that this is a couple where the tank doesn't even attack, and the mage destroys everything with one blow. Lua apologizes and says he can't give them a quest. They've long been hunting that monster house. One of the adventurers tears the quest paper from his hands, shouting that it's too early for them to take it. He panics until his body disappears. Members of the group, whose leader seems to be Jake, stop him and calm him down. A girl in the group tells Lua and Sonya to step back while they restrain him. Both, puzzled, step out and leave behind that chaotic trio. And somehow they make it to the 5th floor of the dungeon. Although they defeated the monster, they are completely exhausted. Jake dragged the team behind him and has been falling behind since then. Now they are spying on them from behind the wall. One of the comrades noted that they are almost stalkers now, but Jake said he wants to see them cry for taking the monster house too lightly, and the girl only doubts. In her opinion, Lua is exactly the mage who destroys everything with one blow. Judging by how he uses the elements that favor him and his attacks, she was sure such power is only possible for those above S rank. So he is even stronger than her. She also finds him attractive. Jake gets annoyed. He says that there is nothing special about magic, especially when it cannot be used in run bulk. He does not let anyone compare them to Lua and Sonya. He addresses the other two and says that they are team number 1, and they are simply grateful and happy that he named them first. Finally, Lua and Sonya reached the 6th floor. Sonya suggests that since Lua is at level 100, they are about to gain a bunch of levels, so he should use a few now. Lua nods, opens the status window, and takes those 3 magical skills he has wanted for so long. Lightning Flash, Mithril Sword, and the Body. To get Lightning Flash, Lua needs 500 attack points, but he currently has only 130, so for now he chooses the Mithril Sword. Sonya thinks he is incredibly cool, and even says it is hard to believe he is only level 2. Now Lua just needs to level up, so he asks Sonya whether to disband the party. Sonya cheerfully agrees, since that way he will get much more experience. As soon as everything is ready, they enter the monster house. As expected, it is teeming with terrible monsters, and the pressure is unbearable. Sonya sternly tells Lua, try to take them down with 1 hit of area magic, because otherwise, due to the spell casting time and MP consumption, they will have big problems. Sonya promises to protect Lua with all her might, but he tells her, run if things ever get that bad. With that, he shouted fiercely at the monsters, calling them onto himself. The trio of stalkers stands in shock. He is so brazenly teasing the monsters. Jake is terribly worried. He feels that these monsters are so dangerous that nothing will remain of Lua, not even bones. Finally, after 7 seconds, Lua casts Thunderstorm on the advancing monsters. A powerful attack destroys them with 1 blow. Jake froze silently, trying to understand who Lua really is. After defeating a bunch of monsters and leveling up, Lua feels a happiness he has never known before. He can feel it too. Power surges into him as his level reaches 170. Sonya enthusiastically praises him. He leveled up so much at once. and triumphantly shows him the materials they gathered from all the monsters. Lua also glows with joy, but since they cannot take everything, they decide to take only the rarest. The trio who is watching still cannot believe it. Lua defeated an entire house of monsters with one blow, and according to Jake's partner, no one in Runbelk knows such magic. He tells Jake that although it is annoying, they will have to accept defeat. Lua and Sonya are clearly the best in the city right now. Jake got angry and declared that he is not going to accept this. Decides to challenge Lua to a duel. His partner tries to stop him, saying that Lua and Sonya are on a completely different level, but Jake insists. Since they know this dungeon better than anyone, if they use the rules to their advantage, they can win. He begins to imagine himself as the strongest and calls himself a genius, while his partner just sighs and calls him a meathead. He feels helpless. Jake does not listen to him. He explains that as soon as they challenge them to a duel, the rules will be decided by others, and any problems could damage their reputation and reduce points. Jake finally listens and asks Dory, their team member, if she agrees with this idea. Dory has completely lost her head over her admiration for Lua, and Sonya walks away without picking up the remaining materials. This chaotic trio is quite a spectacle. And Sonya finally reached the guild for item exchange. Other adventurers are already eagerly talking about how they cleared an entire monster house. Sonya quietly whispers to Lua that she feels everyone's eyes on her, and Lua reassures her, saying that they are becoming famous, and after defeating the monster house, people will talk about them for several more days. Then he points to their rewards: 120,000 for the magic stone and materials, 150,000 for the quest, and in total this gives 853,000. Sonya is delighted. They are earning money so fast that she cannot contain her joy, and Lua says that finally they can indulge a little, but he still feels uneasy spending so much because he has been poor all his life. Something he always dreamed of trying. They go to a restaurant to eat steak, and Sonya, seeing it, gasped with joy. She says she hasn't eaten anything so delicious in a long time. Lua sat quietly, and Sonya gently reminded him, "Don't cry just from the sight of delicious food." Lua smiled and said he was no longer a fool. The smell of tasty meat will no longer bring tears to his eyes. Now he is not poor. He takes a knife and fork, but from the way he holds them, Sonya immediately understands something and asks if he knows how to use them. Our poor little Lua, who is no longer poor, begins to cry. He says he always ate insects and grass with his hands and never learned to use cutlery, so Sonya calms him and asks him to look at her. She cuts a piece of steak and holds it near his mouth. Lua bites like a baby and immediately falls in love with the taste. The steak is so delicious that he returns to himself and cries again with pleasure while they continue eating. Suddenly Jake appears and mocks them, saying he still can't believe that Lua and Sonya really defeated those monsters. Lua stands up and asks what he wants this time. Jake challenges him a duel in 3 days. Lua refuses without hesitation. Dory intervenes and calls Jake an idiot, tells Lua to listen to her, takes his hand with a blush on her cheeks, and says not everything should be solved by force. It is clear she has feelings for Lua, but not as deep as Sonya, who stands nearby with a sulky face after seeing Dory touch him. Dory explains that they will arrange a timed conquest fight. Whoever defeats the dungeon boss first wins, and she also tells them that an agreement has already been made with the guild. If Lua and Sonya win, they will be promoted to C rank. Seeing how Dory clung to Lua, Jake asks his partner why she is not in her usual robe, and he adds that she has never smiled like that in front of him. Both are clearly jealous. Sonya insists, accept the challenge. Although Lua does not like such things, he knows sooner or later he will have to defeat the dungeon boss. So he agrees to the duel. After that, Lua and Sonya begin preparing for the upcoming challenge, and Eric says that the dungeon boss is essentially a C-rank monster. To counter this, Lua masters a new skill, Purple Light. Tension. After acquiring this skill, his level drops by 20, but he soon recovers it. Meanwhile, if Sonya's Iron Wall and Distraction reach level 10, she will unlock new abilities, so they both continue leveling up and learn to maintain the right pace. On the day of the duel, both finally reached level 200, and now they are confident that they are not so easy to defeat. Finally, both teams faced each other, ready for the challenge. The duel turned into a real spectacle. A huge crowd gathered to watch, and the woman behind the guild counter acted as the host, announcing the start of the fight and rousing the crowd, which loudly chanted in support of both sides. Lua asked Jake how it became such a public event, and he replied that people came after hearing the story. Then the woman behind the counter explained to everyone, their task is to defeat the dungeon boss and return with the teleportation stone, while everything will be recorded. Their time will be counted by a magical device called the magic timer. To prove victory, they need to return the boss's magic stone, and with the evaluator present, cheating is impossible. the duel begins. The lady who keeps score asks which side will enter the dungeon first, and Jake's group decides to go first. Jake sharply turned to Lwa and loudly shouted that they would return in a few seconds, so they better not run away, and added that he had no reason to flee. Dory approaches Lwa, tries to be sweet, but actually shows off her figure and tells him that even if he hates Jake, he shouldn't hate her. Jake, clearly irritated, tells her to hurry so they can move, and then an hour and a half passed. Sonya sits next to Lwa, sulky and offended. She turns to him and asks if men prefer women with bigger breasts, clearly hinting at Dory, and Lwa replies that it depends on the person. But he is actually more drawn to someone like Sonya, to someone you can stand shoulder to shoulder with in battle. Her face immediately lit up. While they were chatting, they suddenly heard that Jake's party had returned. They completed it in 1 hour 32 minutes, much faster than the usual 2 hours. The crowd buzzes for Jake. He looks back at Lwa and Sonya with a smug grin and says that beating their time is not easy. Hearing this, Lwa and Sonya remembered that yesterday they reached the lower floor in just an hour. So if they don't mess everything up, they still have a real chance to win. In the dungeon, step by step, they calmly and confidently break through crowds of monsters. Lwa says that they are doing their best to avoid unnecessary fights and that he now understands Sonya better. Sonya agrees this time they reach the floor faster, so they definitely have a chance to win. Still, Lwa reminds her not to relax. They have not yet defeated the dungeon boss. Sonya beams with a bright smile and tells him that she will show how much he can rely on her. The Lizard King monster, watching their cheerful conversation, begins to cry quietly, still heartbroken after being dumped last night. Finally, they reach the lowest floor. Before stepping over the barrier, Lwa asks Sonya if she is ready, and Sonya confidently replies that they are not going to lose. They step through the barrier and face the dungeon boss fight, a monster named Kelpie, for which it is recommended to have level 400. Sonya instantly distracts him to prevent him from attacking Lwa. While Lwa begins to cast his spell, Purple Lightning, it takes 2 seconds and works only at short range, but for this situation, that is more than enough. Lwa releases the spell. It hits the seaweed and destroys it with one blow. Immediately he receives a notification. His level has increased from 200 to 270, and he earned the title Conqueror Run Belt. Dungeon, Sonya jumped with joy. They defeated the Kelpie rank C with just one hit. Lwa tells her that the Purple Lightning deals 12,000 damage, and since this element has an advantage over Kelpie, it comes out to 24,000, and no monster could survive. He rushed to grab the magic stone, and decided that they would escape the dungeon by teleportation. Just then, Sonya felt that something was wrong. She looks around and realizes, although they defeated the boss, the barrier still hasn't disappeared. At first, Lwa doesn't believe it. They definitely defeated the dungeon boss, but Sonya suddenly lifts his gaze upward and tells him to look at the ceiling. Lwa raised her head and saw a new monster appear, the soul of the pirate William, recommended level 1000. This is an extra dungeon boss, and the surprise hits them both hard. The additional boss immediately lunged at Lwa with a powerful attack. Sonya tries to distract the monster to protect him, but with horror sees that her trick doesn't work. Despite all efforts, the boss still aims at Lwa. It sharply swings its sword at him, but Lwa manages to dodge. Outside near the dungeon, the cashier announced that 45 minutes had passed, and Lwa and Sonya still hadn't returned. From behind, Jake said that they should have already defeated them. Dory sharply cut in that they can't be defeated so easily, and they started arguing. To distract them, the girl at the register offers to tell a scary story. While they wait, she changes the tone of her voice and plays with the atmosphere, saying that besides the main dungeon boss, there is another special boss who appears only when someone fulfills a certain, extremely difficult summoning condition, and this additional boss is incredibly powerful, and those who have seen him prepared for only one thing: death. And there was never any report of the appearance of this additional boss in this dungeon. Jake, now clearly frightened, suddenly shouted at her to stop scaring him. Meanwhile, the other two just stand as if nothing bothers them. In the dungeon, another boss swings a sword at Lwa, who barely manages to block the strike. Despite the block, Lois's body is torn by pain. High's current B rank makes itself known. And worse, their teleportation magic doesn't work, so they have to defeat the boss to activate the teleport stone. And for a level 270 hero, a fight with a boss recommended at level 1000 seems almost impossible. From behind, Sonya shouts to Lwa, "Retreat and strike him with the thunderous javelin." Lwa follows her secret plan and summons Grim Javelin, but the monster easily dodges the attack. This shocked them both. The monster suddenly crouched low and kicked Lwa in the stomach, sending him flying into the wall. Seeing that Lwa was hit, Sonya instantly threw herself in front of him to protect him, and now the monster's attention shifted to her. She begs Lua to regain consciousness, while she herself buys him time. He is seriously wounded and only 120 HP remained after a single hit, and he expected difficulties against a magically resistant enemy, but this could turn out to be a real test. If he cannot overcome this, magic alone will not lift him to the top. He recalls that Eric once said many give up around rank D, but Lua rose from the very bottom. He is not one to give up and has no intention of retreating. He immediately starts looking for why his attack missed, maybe because of the distance, or maybe because he cast right in front of the monster. Even if he ran into a blind spot, the monster could counterattack immediately, and then, no matter how fast he tried to cast the next spell, he would be killed before it finished. This makes him realize the time for casting spells no longer matters now. He will have to endure the monster's attacks and fight it up close with a sword. Lua stands up and draws his weapon, sighing with relief. He has a spell perfectly suited for such a fight: body fortification. At first, he opened the chest with items, took out several potions, and restored his mana. He spent 200 levels learning a new skill, and now it's time to use it. He activates body enhancement. His strength triples and reaches its maximum. This sharply increases both attack and defense. The spell costs 10 MP per second, but with the current multiplier, it becomes 30 MP per second, so he has 34 seconds of enhanced strength left. He takes a deep breath, calming his nerves, and tells himself everything will be fine. He is not alone. Sonya is nearby. She will help restore his MP. He shouted to her, asked her to cover him as he switched to hand-to-hand combat. Sonya is stunned by his sudden change of tactics and questions his decision, but Lua has already rushed into battle. He goes face-to-face with the monster, and at that moment, close combat begins between level 270 and level 1000. The fight between Lua and the monster ignites. Both swing their swords at each other, but neither truly lands a hit. Lois's strikes are not very accurate, but at least he himself is not being hit, and that is a great relief. He attacks again, and with difficulty, finally inflicts a light cut. Although it is a trifle, it gives him a bit of hope. Despite the danger he finds himself in, Lua suddenly realizes the fight brings him burning excitement. The monster launches a counterattack, but this time Lua successfully deflects the blow. He notices that his mana is beginning to run out, and he really wants to recover before it gets worse. Suddenly the monster appears right behind him, preparing to deliver a surprise attack. Lua freezes in surprise. But even before the blow can land, Sonya rushes forward and blocks the attack with her skill Disco. Fiction, surprisingly, this time the skill worked. Sonya urgently asks Lua to recover as quickly as possible, warning that she may not be able to hold the monster's attention for long. Lua thanks her and praises the perfect timing. Swallowing a potion to restore MP, he notices that Sonya is already starting to look exhausted, and they will have to finish this quickly. Lua begins to catch the rhythm in the monster's movements. As soon as he recovers, he attacks the monster again. The monster senses this and also advances, preparing to attack. Lua anticipates that the monster will try a strike with extraordinary precision. When the monster swings, Lua ducked at the last moment, noticed a gap, and struck upward with his sword. As soon as the monster reaches out its paw to snatch the weapon from Lua, Sonya appears behind and grabs him, holding him tightly so he cannot move. She loudly calls Lua to start his chant. Just at that moment, the monster breaks free from Sonya's grip. He turns the sword against her. Sonya takes the blow herself, wounded and forced to let go. The monster instantly lunges back at Lua to counterattack. But it is already too late. The 2 seconds needed for the spell have passed. Lua summons a purple lightning bolt, a clean strike to the very center of the monster. After the decisive blow, Lua loomed over the fallen boss and confidently asked, "How does it feel to be defeated, an adventurer of D rank?" Finally, Lua and Sonya defeated the monster. Sonya sits next to Lua, crying and saying she is just glad he is okay. Both cannot believe they managed to defeat the mad boss. According to Lua, the magic creation skill is completely broken, and Sonya's bold move also saved him, since he defeated the mad enemy while only at level 70. Notifications about level-ups come one after another. Sonya, smiling, says that since he is only level 70, he must be getting a crazy amount of experience. Lua says he is eager to find out at which level his level-ups will stop. Sonya praises not only his magic but also his swordsmanship and asks where he learned it. Lua replies that he learned the basics when he was a low-level adventurer. Sonya is impressed. He reached such a level just from the basics and says that if he really applied himself, he could become an incredible swordsman, but Lua just shakes his head and insists that doing 2 things at once would distract him. Moreover, magic is more interesting to him than simply swinging a sword, and he still believes he can reach the top only through magic. After an intense battle, Lua was clearly exhausted. They sat holding hands, a small but sweet moment between them. Sonya gently asked him to lie down because there was still a little time left, but he said the floor was too hard. Suddenly Sonya blushed and laid his head on her lap, whispering that he could lie down for only 5 minutes. Our shy girl is definitely blushing right now. Lua tells her she is a bit tense, and Sonya shyly tells him not to worry. At that moment, Lua reached level 470 and received the title Captain for defeating the pirate William Hyde, an additional dungeon boss. Outside the dungeon, the cashier cheerfully announced that the magic timer had stopped. Had returned. They completed it in 1 hour and 29 minutes, 3 minutes faster than Jake's team. Jake can't believe his eyes. He insists that they know this dungeon better than anyone, so he asks Lua if he really defeated the boss and demands proof. Lua, obviously tired of Jake's drama, silently raises the magic stones. Something changes in Jake's face when he sees that there are 2 of them. The expert approaches and takes the stones to examine them. He immediately notices that one does not look like ordinary rank C stones. Jake laughs, confident that this proves they are fakes, but his smile fades when the appraisers say that both are genuine. And one of them is a magical stone of level B. Jake froze in amazement. According to him, there should be no B-rank monsters in this dungeon, so angrily he sharply asks Lua what he wants. Lua indifferently says that he defeated an extra boss. Everyone is dead. Shocked, the saleswoman behind the counter grabs Lua by the collar and reproachfully says that he must be joking, insists that this extra boss appears only under strict conditions and that most people even believe that it does not exist at all. Sonya asks her to explain these conditions. She lists them. A party of 2 was smaller. They reached the lowest floor in less than an hour and defeated the dungeon boss in 30 seconds. And hit the boss no more than 3 times. She adds that no one has ever done this, and she herself has only heard such rumors. Sonya proudly says that Lua did all this, and Lua reminds her not to act as if he did it alone. Dory and a member of her squad are equally stunned. Dory approaches to hug Lua. She is clearly impressed, but Sonya bursts between them and does not let her get close. She will not allow another girl to take her boyfriend. Jack's partner, seeing Jake looking at the floor, tries to calm him and says that although it hurts, they have to admit they lost. Suddenly, he is overwhelmed and begins to cry male tears, which honestly should have terrified Lua and Sonya. Jake approaches Lua, extends his hand, and says that he acknowledges his strength. He apologizes for how he behaved before. Lua recalls Carter and compares the 2 of them. Jake feels differently. He shakes his hand and says that he finally enjoyed the competition. Suddenly, the crowd around surged with offers and compliments. Jake cleared a path and loudly said that they are drinking together tonight. Dory approached Lua, leaned a little coquettishly, and asked if they should go somewhere. Lua awkwardly looked around and replied that he better go home and go to sleep. Sonya intervened again and keeps Dory at a distance. Surrounded by shouts of joy and praise, Lua thinks that all this is really pleasant. Later that night, Lua was sleeping in his room when Sonya knocked on his door and quietly asked if he was awake. Receiving no answer, she enters and approaches the place where he is sleeping. In pajamas, she looks wonderful, spreads a blanket on the sofa, and quietly says that Lua probably forgot to lock the door again. He drank too much. She gently strokes his head, thinking that today he is really very tired. Sitting on the floor next to him, she quietly begins to speak. She tells how worried she was and how she thought he might really die earlier. She thanks the heavens that he is okay. Bringing her face closer to him, she confesses what she had kept inside for a long time. She says that her feelings might be a burden for him, so she says them for now. Finally, she confesses her love and says she is grateful to have met him. She, like our Mikasa, still hides her love. The next day at the guild, Lua and Sonya are solemnly congratulated on their promotion to C rank, and finally their new guild cards are handed over, now made of gold. Lua broke into tears of joy. His eyes moist, he turned to Sonya and said, "I finally did it." Sonya giggled and pointed out that his tousled hair completely spoiled the shiny image they were supposed to have for the promotion. At the table, Lua asks why Sonya didn't come to wake him up. He overslept until noon. Sonya blushed, started to say something about his sleeping face, but immediately fell silent and instead said she was just tired. To divert the conversation and hide her embarrassment, she asks what their plans are for the day now that they have cleared the Run Belt dungeon, and Lua thinks and says that they have already earned titles and done everything this city could offer them. He decides that it is time to move on to the next dungeon, and even suggests buying an earth dragon. Sonya did not quite understand, so Lua excitedly explains that when adventurers visited the village of Foil, he often saw them riding earth dragons. They are faster than horses and can carry a lot of cargo. He thinks that since they have collected another 1,000,000, they can afford one, and Sonya hesitates, then gently lets him know that earth dragons cost about 10 million more. The excitement faded from Lua's face, and he instantly changed his tone. He says it's not worth wasting money on convenience. He adjusts his hair and pretends he was never particularly interested. Suddenly, Eric's voice sounds from behind. Don't give up yet, I have a proposal. Lua and Sonia froze, listening carefully to Eric's words. They heard that they defeated an additional boss and have to visit his shop, and the fact that he even has a store simply amazed Lua. Eric explains that he left adventures behind and now runs a weaponsmith. He came to the guild for papers and was lucky to run into them. He wants to thank them for saving him, so he invites them to visit. Lua and Sonia came to Eric, and Lua joked that it looks more like a cowshed than a shop. Eric agreed. Yes, it really was a cowshed that I turned into a store with my own hands. He says he sells supplies for adventurers and travelers, and also raises horses and earth dragons. Eric shows them an earth dragon and says they can take it for free. Both froze, stunned and overwhelmed with joy. Eric tells them that they saved his life, and there is no reason to hesitate. He carefully raised the dragon and believes that they will treat her well. Although he gave up his childhood dream of adventures, this earthly dragon will go on adventures instead of him. The dragon approaches Lua, and he happily coos to her, noting how friendly she is, then adds how much she probably loves grass. The dragon responds with joyful energy. Sonia and Eric see how quickly they became friends, and smile. Eric tells Lua that he can call her whatever he wants, and Lua pauses for a moment and remembers that she made the sound Yao. With great enthusiasm, he proclaims her name, Yao Yu Rose Kingdom Inferno Stroganoff Victory Justice. Sonia and Eric immediately exclaim that this name is too long and hard to pronounce. Sona, picking up the silly game, shouted, Caramel Strawberry Extra VIP Choco Sausage Shan, and Eric, realizing this leads nowhere, decided to call her Yao. Lua hugs the dragon tightly and still adds Kingdom to her name, deciding to call her Yao Kingdom. Eric smiles and says he will bring any equipment Lua asks for later, reminding him that a traveler can never have too much preparation. Everyone gathered to see Lua and Sonia off on their journey. Dory is crying and asks Lua why he is already leaving, and even offered to switch places with Jake. Sonia calmly replies that she does not like Jake. She says this seriously, but still looks cute. Seeing the large crowd, Lua asks Jake why so many people came. Jake says that Lua has become very popular in the city. Of course, Jake and his team are also well known. In his youth, as always confidently, Jake tells Lua that next time they meet, they will win, and asks him to take care of himself and not get injured until then. Eric asks them to take good care of Yao, and Lua sincerely thanks him for everything. Lua climbs onto Yao, and then helps Sonia to get on as well. When the dragon sets off, Lua is thrilled by how smooth and exciting this trip is. Everyone waves and shouts joyfully when the two finally set off from Runbalka. After walking a little way, Sonia noticed how quiet it was here now, and Lua said that the people of Runbalka were very kind and bets that ahead they will meet more like them. Looking up at the sky, he quietly told Sonia that he was glad they met in the village of Foil. Sonia blushed and looked away. Suddenly she begins to feel that Lua somehow heard her confession from last night. Embarrassed, she asks if he remembers anything from what she said yesterday evening, but Lua doesn't understand a thing and asks what it's about. Sonia panics and says it's nothing, but at that moment a monster appears and interrupts their moment, and the Cobalt Knight intervenes, shattering the peace and giving a reason to fight again. While they prepare for battle, Lua looks at the map and notices that the next town is very close. Ahead is a volcanic town called Almont. In the middle of a dense forest stands a small hut. Suddenly surrounded by a pack of thieves, they rudely order the frightened old man, the obvious owner, to vacate the house because they want to take it for themselves. The man begs, his voice breaking. He has nowhere to go if they take the house, but the thieves do not hear his despair and keep shouting. And just then Lua and Sonia appear, complete strangers in this tense scene. Dressed as if for a pleasant picnic, they hold food in their hands. Lua calmly asks the thieves what they are doing. Sonia smiles, lifts a pot, and happily says she cooked curry for dinner, and Lua adds that they found a bunch of crabs in the lake and plan to eat them for breakfast tomorrow. Their overly casual behavior infuriates the robbers. They step forward and start demanding all their belongings. The robbers, clearly overestimating themselves, were confident they could rob this cheerful duo. Lua, not in the mood for nonsense, activates his magic and indifferently says that instead of stealing from others, they should show their strength and grow from it. As soon as they see his magic work, all the thieves instantly lose their boldness. Lua unleashes a storm, and it knocks them all down with one strike. Now to explain why Lua and Sonia are here at all. On the way to the city of Almont, they saved an old man named Irinko. He was once an adventurer, and in exchange for the rescue gave them valuable information. Almont thrives thanks to mines, and its dungeon is teeming with fire monsters, most of which are rank C or higher. The dungeon was once an old mine, so there are still traps here to catch bandits, and on the lowest floor lives a huge burning wolf-rank bee, known as the volcanic dog. Hearing all this, Lua suddenly realized that without water spells, they would not cope with the monsters, and told Sonya that they also needed spells to help deal with traps. Sonya agrees and tells him that after the fight with the monster pirate William Hyde, she gained new skills. Interested, Lua asks to see the updated status window, and Sonya shows it in the window. You can see newly unlocked skills. Resistance to abnormal states level 10, giant shield level 1, defense part level 1, and poisonous shield level 1. Lua was stunned and says that her skills are already at maximum. He adds that if her poisonous shield is strengthened a bit more, it could become a real threat to the enemy. He looks into his status window and sees a new spell, Water Blade, unlocking which costs 150 levels, so he immediately decides to acquire it. His level jumped to 320. They continued on, and Sonya thanked Lua, saying that thanks to Irinko's detailed information, they were able to prepare well. Lua agreed, but loudly wondered why Irinko lives alone in the forest, and Sonya suddenly realized that he hadn't even paid attention to Irinko. She tells that Irinko once fell in love with a fairy he saw only once. He doesn't know if they will ever meet again, but still continues to wait for her. Sonya, as a true romantic, is delighted by this story. Touching scene, Lua, who clearly does not understand romance, indifferently says that the dungeon raiding is much more interesting, and Sonya, who is exactly waiting for this, just sighs. Their conversation froze in the air as soon as they finally reached Almond, a lively city bustling with people. After they parked their earth dragon Yao in the stable, Lua and Sonya set out to explore the city. Lua notices that special city smell. Sonya explains that it is due to the hot springs the city is famous for. That's why the ends were so expensive. Lua understands this and feels a bit down. They are sorry that they could only afford one room. Sonya is delighted, happily saying that saving money is always good. Brushing it off, Lua reminds her to keep her back straight because they are going to enter the dungeon. They took an order from the guild to retrieve the heat-boar hide for a reward of 30,000 mers. Lower is filled with excitement and anxiety because he does not know what the rank C engine will be like. Soon they find themselves in the dungeon. The heat-boar rushes at Sonya, and she skillfully lures it to Lua. Lua casts her newly acquired spell, Water Blade, and effortlessly deals with the monster. Sonya praises him, and Lua stands and looks at the fallen monster. Sonya asks what the matter is, and he says that his level did not increase. He is surprised, and suspects that the monster's subjugation level coincided with his own, so no experience was given. Sonya giggles and notes that Lua used to level up after every fight, and Lua replies that it is really strange, but probably because before that they mostly fought monsters stronger than themselves. Sonya becomes serious and warns him. The deeper they go into the dungeon, the stronger the monsters will become and the more traps there will be. Walking ahead and explaining the dangers, she steps on something, a trap triggers, smoke instantly envelops them. She falls to the ground, and Lua quickly asks if she is okay. Yes, when the smoke clears a little, Sonya says I am fine, just. And the smoke, and when it clears, Lua sees Sonya lying on the floor without any clothes, only in underwear. He freezes, stunned and silent, and Sonya seems not embarrassed at all. For Lua, all this made no sense, and he remains speechless. Seeing Sonya in only her underwear, Lua did not know where to look or what to say. Awkwardly, he whispered to her that she is a good girl, so she should calm down and listen carefully, and quickly added that the smoke is still swirling around and he really can't see anything. He waved his hand, urging her, hurry up and pick up the things that just flew away, and Sonya still did not understand what was happening to her. She looked down and suddenly realized the situation, panicked, and blushing with shame, exclaimed. She desperately asks where her equipment went, and Lua, seeing her so confused, begins to blush himself. Neither of them has any idea how it happened, but it is clear that smoke was a trap that removes people's clothes, and Sonya, still blushing, muttered that at least she could have worn cuter underwear. Lua almost overheard this part, but his brain decided to shut down at the worst moment. Sonya jumped up, grabbed the scattered clothes, and while dressing, shouted at Lua not to look, and then, as if that was not enough. A monster appears, an awkward-looking turtle with a twisted expression, which, swaying, crawls closer and looks at Sonya too intently. Caught right while dressing, frozen by the turtle's brazen gaze. Lover reacts lightning fast and attacks from behind, strengthening the body and creating a water blade. The strike easily defeats the turtle. Turning away, he says to Sonya, finish it. While he checks the battle results, grateful Sonya gets dressed, and Lover respectfully looks away. As soon as Sonya was fully dressed and the monster was subdued, they climbed out of the dungeon, and on the way talked about how they finally fulfilled today's request. But a palpable awkwardness from earlier still lingers in the air, and it can't be shaken off. They exchange light remarks about how treacherous those traps were, both clearly trying to change the mood. Lover apologizes, says he thought a careful inspection would help, and admits he recently acquired the skill Ring of Detection, which cost him 150 levels. He admits he should have done it earlier, but better late than never, so he decides to make one for both of them. Sonya is a bit worried about having to spend a level, but Lover reassures her he will quickly restore it. For him, it is more important not to allow new equipment breakdowns, so he makes the rings himself. And when Sonya receives hers, she gently smiles and says it is wonderful, sincerely thanking him. Later that day, already in the tavern, Sonya goes outside into the fresh air. She stretches out and sighs contentedly, bathing in warm water after their long journey, feeling how relaxing it is, and thinks that the high price in this household is definitely because of this bath. Although she told Lua she would use it in the morning, she couldn't wait. She giggles to herself, recalling those days, until she notices a figure in the fog. Her eyes widen when she realizes that in the women's bathhouse, it is lower. She shouted and demanded to know why he was here, and Lua, calm as always, explained that in these parts there are many mixed public baths, and the former noblewoman probably did not know about this. Sonya, on the edge, pressed her palm to her face, tired of being seen again and again in such awkward situations. Meanwhile, in a quiet corner of the forest, the adventurer girl talks with Arinko and is clearly impressed that someone broke up the thugs in this area. Arinko says she owes her life to a young mage and a girl with a massive shield, and adds that they are much stronger than they seem. The girl was intrigued by this. She came only to arrest the hooligans, but now she was interested in this pair. She challenges them. If they are really as strong as they say, she will test them and throw herself into the fight. And if they pass, she intends to take a closer look at them and promote them to knighthood. The next morning, Lua and Sonya sat in the Almont Guild Hall, and Lua said with a smile that so much happened yesterday, so it was worth gathering themselves a little before going back to the dungeon. Sonya sits with her eyes closed and quietly endures her embarrassment, calmly saying that everything that happened yesterday was because of her own clumsiness, then opens her eyes and suddenly exclaims. She is horrified. Right in front of her stands a strange, completely unappetizing dish that looks creepy. Sonya noticeably shuddered just from the sight, and Lua, completely unmoved, happily explained that it was a special dish volcanic sauté with yamworm, and even praised the Almond Guild menu, saying it was much better than what they ate in Foil and Runbalk. Hot dishes are rare here, so out of curiosity he ordered one. Lua, as if casually, asks Sonya if she doesn't like insects, and Sonya, trying not to show her nervousness, admits that just their appearance makes her nauseous. Meanwhile, Lua, like an experienced critic, slowly twirls the worm with a fork and describes it so vividly that it surprises. The juicy worm bursts in the mouth with a soft crunch, creamy texture, and rich flavor. He says the aftertaste is incredible, a sweet warm essence, and a tart sauce create a real miracle. One might think he is Bear Grylls among adventurers. Sonya, looking at all this in disbelief, wonders if her rivals are not women but insects, but determined to get closer to Lua, she gathers courage and decides to try a bold move. But it turned out to be a terrible mistake. That same day in the dungeon, Sonya looks completely ill, pressed against the wall, pale and weak. Lua gently strokes her back and apologizes for persuading her to try the worm dish. Sonya groans and says it was too soon for her to dare such a thing. As soon as she bit into it, the texture and taste overwhelmed her in the worst way. Just remembering it makes her nauseous again. A bit panicked, Lua instantly uses his skill to create objects and materializes a bucket into which she can vomit. Sonya, her face burning with shame, shouts at him not to look and orders him to go as far away as possible. Lua immediately steps back, thinking that maybe gathering a team was not the best idea after all. Meanwhile, our poor Sonya remains behind a rock, panting, and Lua doesn't even notice how he inadvertently earns a new title, the Man of Zero Tact. Finally, they both reached the 4th floor of the All-Mount dungeon. Monster down. Lua sees that Sonya is full of energy again and asks if she is okay. She says everything is fine now, and Lua notices that his level is recovering now. He is at 310, so he decides to learn a new spell. He opens the status window, and Sonya, standing nearby, suggests, if a monster house or another boss appears in the dungeon, it would be better for him to take a mass water spell. Listening to her advice, Lua finds a suitable spell, surface water, bubbles. It costs 300 levels. Consumes 900 MP, and this makes Lua hesitate a little, but its casting time is shorter than his thunderstorm, and if he levels up once more, he will easily cover the MP cost, so he decides to try. But at that very moment, a scream sounded from behind, and when they turned around, they saw a familiar girl running towards them, wildly shouting for help. Here is Masha, a group of monsters is chasing her. Lua, not understanding why Masha is here at all, assessed her and prepared, then without hesitation activated the spell that strengthened his body. Picks up Sonya in his arms and jumps to a higher area. Sonya was suddenly picked up. She was clearly embarrassed and instantly blushed. From above, Lua watches how swiftly Masha rushes and notices her impressive speed. Sonya, still half embarrassed, muttered that Masha probably has some agility skill. When Masha was safe outside the attack zone, finally Lua launches bubbles on the water surface. In a moment, the new spell destroyed all the monsters with one explosion. Masha, watching from below, is shocked. She recognizes this magic it can only be Lua, but just as she runs to him, she stumbles and falls face down on the ground. Lua rushes. Someone comes to check on her. Masha, lying on the ground, raises her eyes, smiles widely, and says with admiration that she knew it was Lower. Lua, surrounded by a flurry of glowing notifications, does not respond immediately, and Masha is embarrassed and wonders why he is ignoring her. Finally, he peeked out from under the notifications, apologized, and asked her to wait until everything calms down. Chapter 142. Tears well up in Masha's eyes when after such a long separation she sees Lua and Sonya again. Overwhelmed with happiness, she throws herself at Lua and hugs him tightly, crying and thanking him he saved her not once, but twice. She is as sweet as that Masha from the old cartoon, Masha and the Bear. But Sonya gently pushes her back and says that you can't hug someone just because they saved you. Instead, Sonya gently hands Masha a napkin to wipe her tears. Masha gratefully accepts it and quietly thanks her, feeling her warmth as if for a moment their first meeting surfaces again. Lua, intrigued, asks Masha what she is doing in the dungeon, especially since she is not even an adventurer. Masha, hesitating a little, explains that recently her sales have been bad, so she started working as a transporter. Lua blinked in confusion, so Masha explained. Transporters are people who carry things that adventurers collect during quests. Of course, for someone like Lua, who can create items with magic, such work seems pointless. Masha added that she has a unique skill, great luck, and wanted to use it to help the team today, but unfortunately got lost among them in the dungeon. Just as they are discussing this, the group Masha was working with finally appears. One of the men shouted at her, "Where have you wandered off to?" and complained that if she kept disappearing like that, they wouldn't be able to do their job properly. Masha quickly bowed and sincerely apologized, but the man did not accept her apology and said that since they found nothing valuable today, she would not be paid at all, and Masha drooped a little. She quietly nods and silently accepts their verdict, admitting that she lost sight of them and it was her fault. The man, however, arrogantly pretends to be doing her a big favor, saying that she will not be fired yet, but all future payments will entirely depend on how she works. Lua quietly observes everything and feels that something is wrong. If Masha had really been left behind, she would have easily caught up with them. She is extremely fast, and by nature would never ignore the order to stay close. Suddenly something clicks in his head, and turning to Sonya, he asks her to take care of Masha's lunch today. Sonya agrees, a little surprised, and asks why. Lua, smiling slyly, says that some incredibly stupid thing just occurred to him, and advises Sonya to just order herself yam worm sauté, to which she instantly screams in protest. Meanwhile, those who hired Masha mock her, and as soon as they got the chance, they deliberately abandoned her. One of them chuckles. Supposedly, Masha now owes them, and it is clear their intentions towards her are not good at all. Suddenly, Lua stands before them. The group instantly recognizes him. He says in a cold voice that he has cast a recording spell and recorded everything they just said, if they do not. They do not want him to share this with the guild or the public. Better they pay Masha what she is owed because the men do not take him seriously. They laugh, mock, and call him a fake hero. One of them grabbed Lua by the neck from behind, and another drew a sword and lunged at him. They mock his level, supposedly only the 31st and no match for them, but Lua calmly activates body enhancement. Easily breaking free from the grip, he with one smooth movement jumped up, placed his foot right on the face of the man behind him, and dashed away. He quickly hides behind a wall while two men chase after him. As soon as they turn the corner, Lua strikes one from the side, and he instantly falls unconscious. The other, stunned, jumped back. Lua stepped forward and explained that he never intended to fight three at once. That is why he was taking them out one by one. And the irritated last one, with a mocking smile, declared that Lua was finished and reminded that they were in a narrow corridor where magic works poorly. But Lua turns his words against him, calmly saying that in such a tight space swinging a sword is just as difficult. The man lunges with the sword, but Lua launches his personal hand-to-hand move, Furno Stroganoff, and with one powerful strike sends him flying. Standing over him, Lua demands that he apologize. Bruce, barely able to move, weakly agrees, and when Lua turns to leave, he suddenly freezes. In front of him stands a girl, silently watching with admiration. What he just did is the same mysterious girl we saw earlier with Arinko in the forest. Before Lua can ask who she is, she approaches him directly and boldly presses him against the wall, saying in a firm voice and with a confident smile that she is Meryl, a knight from the royal capital Norma in the kingdom of Dram. She has been watching him for a long time, and now with admiration offers Lua a place in her elite team. Lua does not understand what is happening at all. He starts babbling nonsense about not buying expensive paintings and promises to beat any scoundrels she might bring later. Meryl tilts her head, clearly embarrassed by his behavior, and quickly realizes that she probably scared him, so she tries to ease the tension. She says excitedly, calming him down, "Don't worry, join my squad, you'll become stronger." Lua looks at her with a blank stare and replies that his late grandmother always said, "Suspicious invitations never fade, they only grow stronger." Beryl blinked, a little stunned by what she heard, apologized for her harshness, and finally explained that she met an old man named Erinko in the forest. Erinko told her about Lua and Sanya, and when she saw Lua, his appearance exactly matched Erinko's description, which helped Lua understand the connection. She shines again and asks him once more to become a knight, but her excitement hasn't even blossomed. Lua indifferently refuses without even thinking. He says that although she has few knights, he has his own dream. He wants to climb to the top by the power of magic, so knighthood does not interest him. Meryl froze in disbelief and pointed to his sword, asking why a mage even needs a sword, and Lua simply replies that the sword is needed for certain spells. He was deeply disappointed by Meryl's size, considering it a waste of talent. He could become a first-class knight if he joined them. Lua began to walk away when Meryl suddenly grabbed him from behind and proposed to settle it with a duel. She sets a condition. If Lua wins, she will do everything he sees fit. Later in the tavern, Masha tells Lua that the group that hired her suddenly came in and apologized. She shows him a small reward she was given and recalls that their facial expressions were strangely unnatural. Lua smiles and says she did well, after which Sanya approaches and gently thanks Lua. She knows he must have done something behind the scenes. Lua sighs, admitting he can't hide anything from her. Then Sanya gently smiles. Suddenly his face becomes serious and he asks about the girl behind him. Lua turns his head and explains that Meryl suddenly appeared and invited them to become knights, and Meryl steps forward and politely introduces herself to Sanya. She wants to borrow Lua. Sanya is simply shocked. Who does this girl think she is? She's just trying to take Lua away. Lua instantly explains what happened, and Sanya's tense shoulders finally relax. He says that Meryl was very persistent, so they agreed to settle everything with a duel. Meryl rushed forward and enthusiastically announced the terms. If she wins, Lua will become a knight, and if Lua wins, she will do whatever he says. Sanya narrowed her eyes, turned to Lua and asked what he was going to make Meryl do. Lua thought for a moment and said, maybe ask for money in case they go broke, or maybe get some information that is only accessible at night. Sanya, feeling relieved, finally smiled again. Her mood swings are truly a spectacle. She now stands proudly and challenges Meryl. They will fight because Lua never loses, and Meryl replies with the same confidence, and she has no intention of losing at all. A silent spark ignited between the women. They stubbornly stare at each other, and Lua, confused, leans toward Masha and asks why Sanya is so fired up if he is supposed to fight, and Masha seriously replies that now this is a fight between the women. Soon everyone gathered at the Almont Guild training ground. Lua and Meryl stand opposite each other in the middle of the ground. Masha and Sanya stand beyond the edge of the field and watch. Sanya notices with surprise that the guild even has its own training ground. Masha explains that with such a number of professionals, such places have become the norm, and they both look at the wounded who once hired Masha. Now they stand at the edge and loudly cheer for Lua, like enthusiastic fans. On the field, Meryl picks up a coin and tells Lua that the duel will begin the moment the coin touches the ground. She lays out the rules. Everything is allowed except bladed weapons. Lua needs only one accurate strike to win. Meryl will win if she can hit him 3 times. Lua frowned at the limitation, only 3 strikes. He does not want any concessions. Meryl giggles and tosses the coin, saying she is simply showing mercy to the civilians as a true knight should. She instantly lunges forward, swinging her sword with lightning speed. Lua is impressed. She is fast. He is fast too. He was studying her stance, looking for a moment to counterattack, but she suddenly feinted and he froze. Before he can react, she delivers a clean hit. Meryl cheerfully exclaims that it's 1 point, and notes that adventurers' moves are so unpredictable that she must not lower her guard. She adds with a serious gleam in her eyes that if Lua does not give his all, he will definitely lose. Feeling the pressure, Lua grips the sword hilt tighter and is fully ready to fight back. Meryl strikes Lua first, and this instantly stuns Masha and Sanya, who stand aside and watch the fight attentively. Masha nervously tells Sanya that the duel is turning out to be much harder than they imagined. After all, Meryl said she was a true knight. The title second in rank among the knights, Sanya quietly nods as a silent acknowledgement of Meryl's strength, and it makes sense, especially for someone who noticed Lua's hidden power at a glance, while Masha meanwhile expresses her concern. They whisper that Lua has never before pointed a sword at another person, and because of this, it might become even harder for him. Meanwhile on the field, Lewa activates a power that strengthens his body, rushes forward, and swings his sword precisely. Meryl effortlessly parries. Her eyes light up with admiration. She feels that Lewa is finally taking the fight seriously. She is stunned by how lightning fast he adapts to her movements, as if learning right during the fight. His growth rate is simply impressive. The sound of their swords clashing echoes across the training ground, but this time neither hits. Meryl beams laughs and says the fight is getting fun, while Lewa, not at all pleased, sharply replies that she is making a grimace that a true knight should never make. Meryl laughs but instantly returns to a restrained and focused look. Lewa looks at her, a bit stunned, and silently admits that knights scare him and he really does not want to become one. Taking advantage of a brief pause in the conversation, Lewa takes a small restorative bottle from the inventory chest, drinks it, and Meryl curiously asks if that too is made by magic. But now Meryl's playful tone fades. Her sharp gaze warns him there will be no more chances. To recover, clenching the sword in her hand, she dashed forward. Lewa tries to respond and summons a flash of lightning. But just as he thinks he has the upper hand, Meryl suddenly appears behind him like a shadow and delivers her second strike. Lewa exclaims the blow was more painful, much worse than the first. Meryl casually apologizes, saying it's hard for her to hold back once she starts enjoying the fight. Then with a sly smile, she teases him a bit, saying a man shouldn't cry over such things. She immediately delivers another strike. Lewa barely blocks it, and it is clear he is struggling a lot. Even with magic, the difference in their physical skill is enormous. She constantly closes the distance so rapidly that magic is almost useless. Meryl, with a confident gleam in her eyes, says she is about to deliver the final blow, even offering to take care of all the paperwork and hassle related to his knight registration, then rushes forward, swinging her sword. The moment is tense. Lewa's heart pounds. If this continues, he will lose. Even if he tries to dodge, his body won't make it in time. No, this cannot happen. He clenches his jaw. Many adventures still await him. He did not come to become a knight. He will rise to the top by the power of magic. This is his only path. He has nothing but magic, and that is quite enough. His concentration sharpens so much that a new message suddenly appears before him. Magic creation effect activated. At that moment, something changes within him. His aura becomes completely different, calm, sharp, and focused. Meryl's sword is about to deliver the final blow when Lewa without hesitation disappears from his place and suddenly appears behind her. His sword is already in motion. With one smooth strike, he knocks the sword right out of Meryl's hand. She holds her breath, stunned. Lewa delivers his first strike. A moment of silence follows. Then those who were wounded earlier erupt with shouts. Their voices fill the entire battlefield, praising Lewa for hitting a second-rank knight. Meryl, still in shock, looks at Lewa and asks what he just did, how he avoided her attack and reacted so instantly. Even Lewa himself does not fully understand it. He freezes, looking at his hand, stunned, and quietly asks himself where this power suddenly came from. Somehow he managed to hit exactly the one who was much stronger than him. Lewa looks at his sword confused. It looks like an ordinary wooden one, but something is wrong. Just now, when he struck Meryl, the sword glowed, and it was without any magic, so still puzzled, he waves it off and looks. Meryl, with a confident smile, happily shouted that he won. Seeing no other way, he suddenly burst into tears. Her unexpected reaction made Lewa shudder. Through tears, she tells him that there is a severe shortage of people for night shifts. They work so hard that their skin dries out, and all the newcomers almost immediately leave. Lewa does not know what to say, awkwardly tries to calm her. Meryl. She insists that she will do everything Lewa asks. That is a promise. Lewa, sweating from the force of her words, replies that he needs nothing right now and will postpone this promise for later still too. Meryl continues to beg him to give her at least some command, even says she will sacrifice her paid vacation days for this. Poor Lewa is completely overloaded. He politely asks her to rest instead. She is delighted, anxiously asks him how he managed to perform such incredible moves, praises him, standing too close and making Lewa blush. He thanks her, but no. Finally, she notices that she is standing a little too close. Realizing this, Sonia blushed, hid her face, and quickly stepped back. Masher approaches them and says that Lewa moved as if time itself had stopped, and that his sword looked enchanted. With shining eyes, she asks what exactly he did, and Lewa, still unsure himself, admits that he does not know, as if he cannot repeat it now. But if he ever figures it out again, the dungeon assault will become much more exciting. Meanwhile, they talk casually. Meryl listens silently. Finally, she shouted to Lewa and said that now she understands why he does not want to join the knights. He already has wonderful comrades, and he truly enjoys what he does. She sincerely apologizes for insisting so much that they become knights, and this time admits defeat. Meryl explains that she is from the Order of the Drumming Knights, which is based in the royal capital Norham, and if she is not in the dormitory, then most often she is on patrol or catching thieves and criminals. She tells Luwa that if he ever needs her, he can find her. Luwa nods and thanks her for everything. They shake hands, and with that, Meryl's short journey with Luwa ends. In the dungeon, opened for a whole month, life returns to its usual rhythm. Luwa and Sanya set off on their runs again. This time, Masha accompanies them, and already on the first floor, Luwa stops and asks her, "What brought you here?" Masha declares in an overly dramatic samurai voice that Sanya officially hired her as a courier, and Luwa looks at her suspiciously and asks what kind of strange accent that is. Sanya calmly explains that probably Masha just wants to change the way she speaks. Masha confirms this a strange trio with crooked faces called her a pumpkin, and although they apologized, those words still hurt. Luwa straightforwardly says that such things are not worth paying attention to. Sanya, on the other hand, gently says that girls are sensitive to such things. Everyone wants to be called cute. Masha quickly dismisses that it matters to her, says the reason is different, and she absolutely does not intend to postpone the issue of the accent. Sasha enthusiastically says, "Gather as much material as you want. I will carry everything that doesn't fit in Luwa's chest," but reminds that he is doing this to save up for the merchant's dream, so he will charge a fee. Luwa approaches the recently felled monster and begins to disassemble it. And here Masha stops him. She says that the part he is sawing off cannot be sold for a lot of money. Luwa looks embarrassed because the hide of a heat boar was sold somewhere for 6,000 muir. Masha explains that heat boars appear massively in summer, so their value drops significantly. But the tusks cost more. Most adventurers leave them because they are too large, and Luwa, having a chest for items, can easily carry them. Seeing her insight, Luwa leaves the lighter things for Masha and takes on the more valuable parts, tusks and claws. While they were gutting the monster, another heat boar was watching from behind, but unfortunately, the heat boar could not see the heat boar. To his misfortune, Luwa notices and Boar's fate is decided. 3 days later, the three of them returned to the Elmont Guild. Luwa and Sanya barely contained their joy. They earned a pile of money by selling the materials Masha advised. Masha also shines from the earnings and enthusiastically says she will spend the money on a horse-drawn carriage. Luwa asks if she is quitting the transporter job, and Masha replies that she is thinking of heading to Norhem, the royal castle. As soon as she settles there, she sincerely promises to return to him 100 times more than she owes. Luwa, hearing yet another of her new accents, only hopes that she will finally choose one and stick to it. Before leaving, Masha says goodbye and asks them to visit her if they ever come to the capital, and Luwa and Sanya wave to her happily in farewell. When she left, Sanya smiled and said that Masha is always so cheerful. Luwa agreed and added that hiring the carrier was a good decision, because thanks to Masha they understood the price of the materials, and she herself received money to pursue her dreams. Sanya quietly thought to herself, "What a wonderful person she is," and quietly muttered that if Masha hadn't been there, they could have had more time alone. This is a hidden confession, but Luwa knows absolutely nothing about love. She simply replies that fighting will be easier only together. Later that night, Sanya cannot sleep. She tosses from side to side, irritated by how slowly Luwa understands everything. She almost confessed her feelings, and he still hasn't realized it. One can only imagine how difficult the next morning was for Luwa. Luwa and Sanya are now on the 5th floor of the Almont dungeon, where the C-rank monster, the flaming buffalo, is chasing Sanya, and she skillfully lures it straight to Luwa, which finishes him off using his skill, Surface Water Sphere. Sanya praises his punctuality, and Luwa modestly thanks her. Good news, they have finally reached their target levels. Luwa is now at level 501, and Sanya has risen to 516. Enthusiastically, Luwa opens the status window and shows Sanya the new spell he plans to take, Water Cloud Murasame. It costs 500 levels and has a mono cost of about 1,000. He admits that the mono cost is a bit too much, but the damage it promises is incredible. Just as he smiled broadly and was about to buy it, Sanya suddenly appeared behind him in a dark aura and sternly called his name, scolding him for even thinking of buying a spell inside the dungeon. If he rolled back to the first level in the middle of the dungeon without a proper recovery plan, it would be too dangerous. Lois pouted and grumbled that he really wanted to get it, but Sanya stood her ground. Looking at them, they really looked like a married couple, obedient husband restrained by a strict wife. After leaving the dungeon, two returned to the guild, and Luwa shines with joy upon learning that the 15-rank sea magic stones they turned in brought them 90,000 muir. But considering that they stayed in a rather expensive hotel, he feels sorry, would like them to get at least a little more. Sanya, however, suggests making the 6th floor the next target, hoping to come across rarer and more valuable materials. They had just been discussing plans when a man named Slay abruptly interrupts them and says that climbing to the 6th floor without a rank is too risky. Luwa immediately puts him in his place, irritably pushing away his unsolicited opinion, and orders him to take his arrogance somewhere else. Slay explains that he did not mean to be arrogant, and generously offers to treat them to food in exchange for useful information. Soon all three are sitting at the table, intently looking at the menu of delicious dishes. Loa and Sanya almost drool, asking if he will really pay for everything and tease him. He tells them not to be shy, they can help themselves. Loa picks up a steak and curiously asks what this rare meat is called. Slay informs him that it is called medium rare. As expected, Loa cried with happiness when he tried it. The taste moved him so much that Slay turned to Sanya and asked what Loa usually eats. She hesitated a bit, but eventually said that he eats caterpillars. Slay officially calls himself a mage of a rank. Sanya also says her name, but it is her name that catches his attention. He asks if they have met somewhere before. Sanya thinks but does not recall ever seeing him. Still, Slay stubbornly says that he definitely saw her somewhere. They put that aside and resumed their conversation, and Slay guesses that they are new adventurers in Alma. He informs them that the 6th floor is a completely different level. The monsters there are mostly B rank, and the recommended level is over 900. Sanya immediately asks Loa if that is a higher level than the extra boss they fought earlier, and Loa recalls that boss was also recommended for level 1000, so he thinks they have a chance if they are not overwhelmed by the crowd. Slay looked surprised they met another boss, and asked what their current adventure rank was. Upon hearing that they are still C rank, he grimaced with a strange expression, as if holding back a million questions. Loa notices this and directly exposes him. Slay explains that for C-rank adventurers it is even more dangerous because very few have overcome the 6th floor, so many monsters have never been defeated before. And for Loa, the more dangerous something is, the more interesting it becomes. Loa asks Slay if he is a mage, and upon hearing yes, says that he is a mage himself. Slay is surprised. He says he didn't notice because Loa was without a staff. Loa explains that he used to be a swordsman and only about a month ago started practicing magic. Slay adds impressed that a staff can shorten the casting time of spells, and Loa remains embarrassed. Slay explains that casting spells opens mana channels, and when mana is directed into a staff, it shortens the casting time. Sanya notices the staff next to Slay and asks if it is the one he uses. He says so indifferently that he will never get a chance again. Loa, intrigued, asks what that means. Slay reveals that he modified his own mana circles, a technique few can manage, and he boasts that he was able to do it because he is a genius, so it becomes obvious. He is a bit self-loving. Loa muttered under his breath that he thought Slay was a decent person, but now he seems more like a confident braggart. Recalling the fight with Meryl, he suddenly remembered that when he activated that strange power, it also somewhat resembled magic without spells. But after thinking it over, he realized it was different, as if something from the subconscious took control over him, and he again sank into thoughts. Slay notices and asks if something is wrong, and Loa waves it off and says everything is fine, adding with a smile that he is glad to meet another mage like him. At first he smiles and nods, but then, with a completely different look in his eyes, he says that the lower one will cause a huge surge. Loa and Sanya find themselves in a peaceful garden, hidden in a dungeon, a rare place that feels completely safe and quiet. Calm around, as if there is no threat nearby, lifts Loa's mood. He excitedly declares that this is the perfect place to acquire a new skill. Sanya nods, reassuring him that it is safe enough here for him to return to the first level, and trusting her, Loa activates a new spell, Water Cloud Morrisum, which costs a huge amount of MP but has destructive power. It deals an incredible 30,000 damage, enough to fell even a B-rank monster. Loa smiles broadly with satisfaction, thrilled by the power of magic he now has, but the moment of joy is instantly cut short by a level 2 cat that suddenly bites his leg. The tiny creature easily knocks him down, shocking both him and Sanya. She holds her breath, and Loa lies defeated by what looks like a completely harmless cat. At night, Loa and Sanya sat at the table in their cozy room. Loa grumbled and was still angry that some low-level cat knocked him down, even though his spell was super powerful. Sanya calmly said that the main thing now is to restore his levels, suggesting that in 2 days he challenged the 6th floor of the dungeon. Loa nodded, swallowed the drink, and headed to the next floor. Window, he recalls Slay's warning about the dangers of the 6th floor and tells himself that before rushing there, he must reach at least level 500. Loa opened the status window to check progress and suddenly jumped up with a scream. Sanya flinched and asked what happened, and he instantly showed her the message on the screen. A new feature appeared: more experience and a level reset bonus that applies not only to him but also to his comrades. This news shocked them both, and they shouted aloud. Excitement and disbelief battled in their chests. The next day they set out for the dungeon, and again faced a familiar enemy, the second heat boar on the first floor. Normally, defeating it would have raised his low level to 150, but thanks to the new bonus skill, he immediately jumped to 250. Sonya was stunned by such a leap in development and exclaimed again what a super powerful magic skill it was, saying that if it continued like this, Lua could become the strongest mage in the world. Lua laughed, clearly enjoying it. He said that his dream to master magic at the highest level might really come true. He suddenly faltered and became embarrassed when he realized how seriously he had just spoken. Sonya saw his embarrassment, smiled, and said she would be there to help him achieve this goal. Touched by her support, Lua quietly said, "Thank you." Sonya shyly giggled and accepted his thanks. Their warm moment was suddenly interrupted by the appearance of another monster. Without wasting a second, the two rushed into battle. They quickly finished off the monsters chasing them, and after several fights, Lua's level sharply jumped to 610. He was simply shocked, could not believe that in one day he had risen from level 1 all the way to 610, and at this pace was confident he could handle the dungeon boss. Sonya remained cautious and said that if too many monsters attacked them at once, it could still be dangerous. Finally, they reached the 6th floor. While walking, they tense up and talk about how important it is to have a retreat plan in case of trouble. They agree to first secure the path to the 5th floor before moving further, and just at the moment when they are discussing their plan, the monster suddenly appears right in front of them. It is a red ogre with a domination level of 930. The monster growls and swings its massive sword directly at them. Sonya rushed forward and blocked the blow with her shield, showing that she is a reliable part of the team. Meanwhile, Lua activates Water Cloud Murasame, a shimmering sword of water, and magic appears in his hand. He dashed forward as if thanking Sonya for buying him time and launched an attack. With a confident smile, he mocks the monster, saying he could learn some defense from Sonya. The blade cleanly sliced through the red one. With one flawless strike, the monster crumbles, and Sonya and Lua immediately level up. Sonya happily sees her level jump from 700 to 750. Lua approaches with a proud expression and reminds her of what he said earlier. They will quickly rise in levels. His own level has already reached 730, and they stand side by side, stronger and more coordinated, their growth seeming unreal, but they handle it perfectly. And at this moment, they look not just like a pair of adventurers, but like two future legends. Having knocked down the red ogre, Lua turned to Sonya, who was watching behind, and sharply said, "We retreat, but first we take the magic stones. His new spell needs 152 seconds to recharge, so if more monsters appear during this time, he will be practically helpless." Even despite all the noise they just made, luring more monsters is quite possible. Unfortunately, he is right. Sonya suddenly froze and pointed with a trembling hand behind him. A huge horde of monsters is rushing at them, and Lois's face instantly turned pale with panic. Several of them rushed to the stairs, retreating in flight and believing that the monsters would not follow them floor by floor. But this hope is in vain. The monsters are indeed chasing them, pounding the stairs with loud, menacing steps. Gripped by panic, Sonya gasps for air and asks what they should do. If they go further, they will be trapped in a pincer from both sides. The monsters from the 6th floor will chase from behind, and from above on the 5th, there may be more waiting. Lua is just as confused. Even when his recovery time ends, he will need time to speak the spell. They need a solution and fast. Suddenly, smoke filled the stairwell, wrapping around Lua's body. Sonya instantly remembers that smoke trap that disarms people, quickly covers her eyes with her hands and peeks through 2 fingers, doesn't want to accidentally glance at Lua if he ends up completely helpless, but instead of screams or confusion behind her, Lua's joyful voice suddenly sounds. He emerges from the smoke unharmed and smiles, tells her that his detection ring sensed the trap in time and he broke free. Sonya's jaw drops, is clearly disappointed. Her cunning plan to spy on Lua completely failed, and her mood instantly soured. Before any of them can say anything, Slay suddenly appears like a storm and lightly mocks, "You are, as always, so noisy." Without any effort, he raises his handand. All the pursuing monsters instantly burn up, turning to ash. Lover and Sonya stare, stood stunned at the horde that had nearly taken their lives vanished in an instant. And Slay smiles and reminds them that he warned the 6th floor is no joke. Both thanked, and Lua, especially impressed, anxiously asks if that was a fire spell. He is thrilled because he understands. Slay just destroyed an entire group of monsters with one strike, and at the same time used an element in which he technically has a weakness. Such power is characteristic of a mage. Praise is fuel for his arrogance. With a self-satisfied smile, Slay says that the types of elements do not matter when the monsters are only of C rank. After all, he is a genius, and Lua cannot even argue. Although Slay is arrogant, his strength justifies it. And he does all this without any spells. Lauer is intrigued. Sonya also catches the wave, praises and shouts, "Slay," in a rare moment of encouragement, says Lua. That he could do all this too, if he really got down to business. A few more surviving monsters sneak up from the corner, seeing a chance, and Slay decides to show off a little more. He takes off into the air and again draws the attention of Lua and Sonya. Lua holds her breath, stunned by his flight. Slay calmly says he is hovering thanks to gravity magic. From above, he quickly surveys the surroundings and counts the enemies, then quietly casts a spell meteor shower. Fiery boulders fall from the sky, destroying the last monsters in a magnificent display of magical power. Lua and Sanya freeze in awe. Craters on the battlefield, smoke, silence after the storm, all of it is overwhelming. Lua looks up with admiration and says that one day she wants to be just like him, strong, restrained, and with incomplete control over her magic. Slay easily descended and smiled sincerely, saying he can't wait to see how deep we will go, waved goodbye, and disappeared into the corridor, leaving the two behind. Later, Slay walks the streets near the Adventurers Guild, having just exchanged dungeon rewards for money, muttering to himself about how fun it was to see Lua and Sanya admire him. There is a hint of obsession in his voice. He likes attention, especially from those who show potential. At that moment, several thugs blocked his way, confident that he was easy prey. They demand his wallet, not even suspecting the monster standing before them. He does not hesitate. In an instant, he strikes each one. He falls, smiling like a maniac the whole time. He looks as if he is not even worried, rather pleased, as if he likes this more than crawling through dungeons, and his crooked smile widens when he sees the last one writhe. Unlike the monsters, Slay seems to truly enjoy knocking people down.